All right. Here we are,
Oh,
everybody. Welcome to the 12 to 1400 groups training session. Just gonna push Alphins a little bit that way to get his head out from under my chessboard, and looks pretty good. All right. So, any 5-monthers. Okay, so today's training session is basically just going to be playing. So I just want to see the best that you guys have today. So all four of you will need to be in live chess if you're not already. And I'm gonna follow your games and comment for the audience. I expect that over the course of these weeks, people are going to start getting to know you as well, and then you'll get unsolicited tips like, I noticed that you always, put your knight on f3. Sometimes you could put it on h3. You'd be like, really? But I'm expecting that people are going to get to know you, and we sometimes do sort of like a directed training session on a particular skill, like we did with openings previously. But today it's just the whole package. So you're going to have an hour, and you're going to play two 15-minute games during that time, not against each other, just out into the pool. Because if you play against each other, we can't take any rating points from anyone, right? It all just stays with
No
us.
mercy.
So every now and then we have to go out in the pool, see if you guys have gotten better, and if we can like collect a little bit from the rest of the chess.com world. And move you guys up, see if you'll be ready for the 14 to 1600 group at some point. So that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to go out there, try and knock out some people who aren't in our group. So be merciless, do your best. Anybody feel pressure playing on stream, or are you going to be able to play your best tonight?
now out for blood.
Even better. I don't have to show mercy.
Excellent. All right, so I'm going to follow all four of you. I've got two boards up so people can watch two boards at a time, and I'll flip around a little bit between the boards. So let me I'll give you guys like 20 seconds while I try and send out some follow commands and see if I've got you right. Okay.
1510.
What's that?
Time control is 1510.
Yeah, 15.5 or 15.10, whichever you're more comfortable with is fine. Whatever you would normally do, I guess, if you're trying to raise your rapid rating.
For the pool, we would have to go 15-10 because that's the like.
That's where you'll find opponents.
Times,
Great. Yeah, we do want to find
10
opponents.
was also rapid. One chess.
No 10 minutes. I veto.
One chess.
No, I mean he can do whatever he thinks is gonna get him 2 good games in and raise his rating.
Oh, we don't. Oh, if we don't have, I'll have to do it. Then that's fine.
Yeah, you guys don't have to be doing the same time control. All right, so I'm gonna follow Selma over here. That worked. I'm gonna follow Elfins over here. You guys are on the left today. Okay, following Elfins. Then in my other window, I shall go and follow up there. Unable to follow Mr. Disco 99. Did I get the number wrong?
No, it's 99.
Okay.
Oh wait, it's saying it's taking a long time to connect. Weird.
Struggling to connect to live chess. Okay.
Now?
Okay, let's try. Follow Mr. Disco 99. All right, I've got you on there too. I have to fix this board slightly because I realize there's going to be 2 of them open at once. Okay. All right. Beautiful. All right, you guys can start seeking. Start seeking your games.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
First is, I'm guessing we're still gonna go for the, I mean, probably a personal thing, but still leave the audio because there's gonna be commentary at the same time. So
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I can mute myself over here like this, and that could do it, but you might still, I don't know, hear each other or something. It might be easiest just to leave the audio
And then
during your games.
second question I had is, once we finish the first game, do we immediately seek the second one, or do we just wait for everyone to finish first?
So you don't need to wait for the others to finish, but you can do whatever works best for you. If you like to take a couple minute break between games, if you want to like check in with me and say hi, or if you want to just like back to back, it's really up to you, whatever pace works for you.
All right.
Yeah, so each of you is basically sort of semi on your own tonight, right? You're just maximizing your own performance, whatever works for you. And I'm here as your emotional support animal. Yeah.
All right.
Anyone else?
Sounds good.
All right. Good luck.
Let's wrap the dojo, everyone.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Alrighty.
All right, and they seem to have all left the chat, so I'm going to take a second to... Oh, the games are started, so I'll pull a game up here and over here. All right, we got E4 on the left and D4 on the right, folks. I can predict that right away for you. I'm going to throw up some name tags on them for you, although you should get to know them, but maybe it's respectful to put their names up there. So I'm going to add some name tags here, and then I will comment. I mean, really what I want to do is watch my students play. You know, I don't want to be doing all this production stuff, but here you go. Elfins. But hopefully I can at least do it quickly, right? You guys, I hope you're all rooting for our team here. Nope, nope, nope. How's he doing? D4 as well. Mr. Disco with the exchange Slav. All right. We're set, right? Actually, I'm going to just change this slightly. All right. Nothing more to adjust. Let's comment. All right, so. Okay, so I guess knight b5 doesn't win here because of queen a5. e3 likely threatens knight b5. Okay, Suhoi plays bishop f5. We'll see if Mr. Disco tries for this. I guess now black has rook c8, so maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe white should just develop. Ooh, queen b3, hitting some things. Yes! We talked about that in this class, that when the bishop comes out, the move to look at is queen b3. If there's something wrong with the bishop coming out early, it's often going to be queen b3. Okay, and what do we have here in Selma Knight's game? h6 Sicilian? Yikes. Oh, but here he made a big mistake. the opponent's weaknesses are here and here. So knight f5. Knight f5. He spent quite a bit of time on trading, so at least he spent his time at the right time. This is the move where his opponent's done something challenging and he can think about what he wants to do with it, right? But just trading was not particularly good. I would like to see like a further aggressive move here from white, just because white's ahead in development and black's played h6 and a6. That's like the style of move I'd like to see from him. Okay, so queen d7 was played. Now he's got to choose between like bishop b5, knight f3 going to e5. Knight f3 and knight e5 is a huge threat, actually. Disco sometimes plays slowly, but in the past, one of his things was he wasn't good at punishing mistakes from the opponent. So let's see if he can punish here a little bit. This is looking very risky from black. The threat here is knight e5, and if you take, pawn takes, knight moves, bishop b5. A lot of people would play bishop b5 first here, which may be perfectly okay, but then like bishop d6, stopping knight e5, or, you know, being able to trade it. So it's important. Knight e5 is stronger first, and really, really strong. Yeah, knight e5 is winning probably. That's the difference between knight e5 and other moves. At this point, if your opponent has like messed up a little bit, you're never going to have like two different, ooh, f4 from Selmanite, super happy. And king h1 in 1 second, I like that as well. I like people to spend their time, but also like to have looked ahead. It's good that he's not surprised by bishop c5, right? If he'd been surprised by it, you would have seen him at least spend 3 or 4 seconds and maybe like get into some long think, right? Which is fine if you're surprised. I mean, you are supposed to stop and think. But 1 second means he saw it coming. He planned it this fast as well. I like that. I like that he spent time on some moves, but then after playing them, like he knew what his fault would be. Knight e5? From Mr. Disco, unexpectedly precise, coming in to punish. He's about to score the first points for Team Dojo. Let's go. Just got to take it with the pawn and it's over. I hope he's thinking enough here to figure this all out. Oh, he could also lose here if he blunders bishop b5 and then the knight comes back to c6. That would be a huge blunder. Please don't be overeager. Please calculate well. Looks very calm. Looks like a killer to me, honestly. Mr. Disco Thierry looks like a killer tonight. Whew. I don't think anyone else is winning yet, right? Let's check in on Jude Rezan. We haven't really seen her game. Whoa, her game's looking nice too. She's also winning already. Oh no, there's c6. There's c6. If knight back to c6, she has d5 winning. So the one move to keep Big Bouse in the game is c6. But Big Bouse plays some weird moves. Look at that f6, just asking to lose. Bishop c4 was a good move in response. Like the worst thing about f6 is just this diagonal. So castles, just nice development. Nice development. Very clean. And I like that she noticed queen a4. Ah, Bouse found it. Okay, so now you have to retreat. And then you're going for b4. Bouse is going to have to save this knight with b5, knight b7. Fianchetto knights are not good, by the way, if anybody didn't know that. They're not good. But yeah, we just hope to see her retreat the bishop. I know she wants it on this diagonal. But, I mean, that's just been taken away. And you don't want to trade for this knight. It's a bad piece. So we'll see. See what JB comes up with here. Let's switch over here. So bishop f4, h5 was played. Aggression. Knight d5, take it. Oh, yes. Queen in the center. Hitting 2 pieces. Selma's coming too. Did we get white on all 4 boards, by the way, randomly against the pool? We have 4 whites in round 1. Elfin's looking good too. Elfin's looking good too. All right. So Elfin's faced also a6 and h6. Man, if you knew your opponents were going to play a6 and h6 in the opening, you should definitely play like e4 and then d4, right? Like an e4 opening where you play an open variation. Like for sure. Okay, JB played the right move, bishop d3. Super happy to see that. Bishop g4 coming in, and she should not worry about bishop takes f3. She should just play b4. And that wins the game over there. Man, we could get off to a nice start today. G5, Jay Carvey. How much did Elfins pay you to play these god-awful moves? And Elephant's just developing every piece. Oh, we got the first blood. Selma Knight scored it. Queen d5 was a resignation. Yes! All right. I don't want to turn this into too much of like a silly show by putting up a scoreboard, but you guys want to see like Dojo versus everybody? Keep track of the points that we're scoring. I love that Selma Knight used 3 minutes on this opening, or I guess there was like a 10-second increment, so probably like 4 minutes on the opening. The opponent used 2 minutes on the opening, and he just cleaned up. Very, very nice. Happy to see f4 here. What's up with people just playing a6 and h6 for absolutely no reason, right, Far Eastern? They weren't even like trying to chase a bishop or stop a knight g5, right? It was just complete randomness. What's Big Bouse trying to do? You guys are wondering. Big Bouse. Let's see. Knight fd2. So JB avoided this. So she doesn't realize that b4 wins a piece. Now black castled. She hasn't seen this opportunity yet. But now she's seen it. Now she's seen it. It's looking good. How's Mr. Disco doing? Mr. Disco's up a queen, right? Mr. Disco has only not won the game first because Mr. Disco's opponent is the one using their time best out of everybody we're facing today. So, oh, this is looking nice. Now, you could take the knight, but check. King takes, queen b7, even wins the rook. Let's see if Mr. Disco takes this seriously, even when already in a winning position. Good start. Now, recaptures is so simple. Almost anybody would do it. Did it. Yeah. Did it. All right, Selma Knight has started the second game. Black now. Against From India. Wait a minute. Isn't From India in our chat here? No, that was Didiya. Hopefully it's not somebody stream sniping Selma Knight. That would be rough. Okay. They're taking their time on the first two moves here. From India has the Indian flag, so that's fair. That means it's morning for him or her or them, right? From India's just waking up right now. Well, it's probably like 9 a.m. That's only waking up for some late people. Wow, look at Elephant just bringing every piece out. Now, this knight's not yet on d5 because this knight is defending it. Okay, so there's still a game to be played here. I mean, White's position is good, but it's not over yet. And now bishop g4 is threatened. Did Elephants notice that? Yeah, Elephants is deep in the tank thinking about this. So what happened? Bishop e3 here, castles here. This move's maybe a little stereotype, this rook e1 move. You know, a stronger move could just be h4 here, trying to crack that structure and develop the rook that way. Right? If your opponent plays g4, you can just take a free pawn, and if the pawn captures, then your rook is already developed on a good square. So that might be an idea. h4 right there. Anyway, okay, so here's what happens. Queen e2, knight goes to g4. So Jake Harvey is going to take a bishop pair away from our hero here. Logical for white would be some move with this knight somewhere deep, trying to open up this power. That would be logical. Yeah, knight f5 is quite a decent move here. Okay, knight d5, similar intentions, but after pawn takes, you block your bishop and your rook, right? If you compare that to my suggestion of knight f5, after takes, you see every white piece is like rabidly active for this situation here. So knight f5 would be preferred for anybody out there wondering about it. Okay, we get to here. We're going to see like knight takes, queen takes, and then bishop e7. And that's the position where you'd want to win by playing, you know, knight f5 or knight d5 with your last knight. But after knight here, queen here, bishop here, there won't be an immediate win for white. There will be like tripling on the e-file, which will be probably still pretty good for white. But you see this guy's just dead, and this knight has no more hops, right? All covered by black. So a knight without hops and a bishop staring at a wall. Not ideal. Solid opening from Selma Knight. Let's see how it happened. Man, this opponent's also playing h3 for no reason. a3 for no reason. Are you kidding me? Is this really what chess looks like in this rating band? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I've seen like 800s who play way better than this, who like know basically everything about chess strategy. All right, Jay Carvey's in the tank here. Jay Carvey's a tough opponent. Jay Carvey played some terrible moves in the opening, but is now recognizing when it's time to think. So that's intense. Mr. Disco still working on this game here. What happened so far? So it was like this. Played a sack to get the rook in. Okay, that's fine. That's an acceptable sack. Now you need to find a lever, though. You need to find b3. You need to play bishop g5. You have to find something to make use of that sacrifice. You have to have follow-up. It's absolute garbage, but he's lucky that these can't move. Yeah, I mean, if he moved it to g5, it would no longer be absolute garbage. It would just be checkmating black on e7. Queen c6 played instead. That doesn't look promising to me. How's JB doing here? No queen. Okay, opponent doesn't have a queen either. Good. She's still up. She's still up a piece from this b4, queen a5. That was the trick. You have to see that when the opponent counterattacks like this, you can actually just take. So she did see the whole thing. That's good. Okay, everything's going very well for JB here. No worries for the moment. This knight will need to be improved. Knight c2 to b4 is plausible. We'll keep our eye on that. Wow, the knight comes back. Respecting the e-file. Okay, I can respect that. I can respect that. It's not easy for white to set things off in this position here. And bishop g4 could come in if we go for f4, which is desirable for white. I think Elfins has the realist game on his hands. Everybody else won material in the opening in this first round. f3, that's good. Knight f7. So fix this. Disco. Oh, has found a checkmate. Nice. Queen check, king here. Queen in here, threatening mate. f6, trade it. Yeah. Here there's mate in 1, but Disco wanted to play with his food, which I don't blame him for. I would love to play with this kind of food myself. Good so far, Craddock. How about you? All right, there's the second point for our team. Nice one, Thierry. Nice one.
And for a while, I thought he was going to make me wait 10 minutes to resign.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to the next one.
All right.
Definitely.
Great. Oh, that's good news for you, Craddock. You're leaving New York City. I'm very happy for you. I loved leaving New York City. Selma Knight still with just a nice position here. There was this knight trade on d4. That doesn't particularly help black, and it could allow white to take like this, which maybe helps white. So I would just keep things stable here, you know, develop my rook, develop my bishop, simple stuff. He was maybe worrying a little bit about knight b5. That could explain the trade. Yeah, he definitely was. That's why he then played a6. Rook to the file, though. I mean, everything's on a good square. It's all logical. Yeah, I mean, technically there's a lot of people living in New York, but oof. I think it would be my last choice of all the places I've been in the U.S. Like within the U.S., I think. Well, the part of New York I lived in was Manhattan, so I'm not judging any other parts of New York particularly, but Manhattan would probably be like my last choice. I haven't been to New Orleans, so it's not on my list. Okay. Anyway, let's keep up with this. This game is intense. H3 stopping bishop g4, bishop g7, knight f3, trying to face the problem head on. But I think what white needs is maybe like rook f1, f4 here. H3 is a good start for that because it deals with bishop g4. And then I think you need like rook e1, f4. See how this goes. Actually, hang on. Like, what if black just, took with this? I mean, had he calculated something like this? Whew, okay. Okay, I believe that he did. Bishop d4, okay. Okay, I believe you, Elfins. You've got an idea what you're doing. You're calculating some stuff. Mr. Disco got a double white. d4, e6, and plays e4. Love it. I always like to see a d4 player who, when faced with e6, is like, you know what, e4 is the best move here. I'll play it, Or if like somebody plays like d6 against them, is like, well, they didn't stop e4, so I guess I should play it. I always like to see that instead of somebody who's like d4, e6, London system. Like, dude, the point of the game is to play this move. So very principled moves from Mr. Disco. Obviously on the clock, you can see that Mr. Disco is like well outside of like comfort zone or like memorized openings or whatever, but he's playing like correct principled moves. So that's good to see. How's JB doing with her extra piece here? Move the rook. Yeah, I mean, I would love to just see the knight improved, but at least she's fighting for her rook, right? And her rook counts too. Ooh, trying to just crack it all. I like that as well. F4 just dodging out gracefully. Perfect. Perfect. Perfect so far. I mean, not like Magnus Carlsen perfect, obviously, but like very good. Very good for what we're about here. Hello, Devin Booker people. Nice. Grabs the pawn. That's what I was hoping for. All right, what's happening here? Craziness. Okay, so bishop d4, check, king over, trades. Okay, so the opponent's going into trade mode. It's complicated here. There's knight e1, bishop f8. Simplest is king g7. Black's position is like agonizingly good given their opening. I mean, Elfins is going to be mad about this. This has happened to me too before, that people just play god-awful moves and then get a good position. It's really the pits when that happens. Okay, Selma knight, bishop e5, bishop c6. Good, just small little incremental improvements. That's what you can do. Challenging it, and this. Maybe in this position, knight d7 would have been better than bishop d6, right? It's more of a threat to take the bishop pair with the knight. And if the bishop goes back to d4, you have e5 trapping it. So that might be really nice. And if the bishop goes back to h2 or something, I mean, another option is you go knight c5 and you take that bishop. Or, maybe you have the option of still playing e5. Uh-oh, Elfins hung the bishop. Wait, won by resignation? What happened here? Oh, he played queen f3 hanging the bishop and then resigned before seeing if his opponent would take it. You got to stop doing that, Elfins. You got to stop doing that. You don't know if the opponent's going to take it. Okay, so this game here, bishop d6, f4, knight into e4. Yeah, I don't love that move, but I understand this position's kind of like stodgy and Salmon Knight's not sure what to do. You kind of want to take knight d7, attack that isolated pawn, but you're worried about bishop h7 check, which is at least a draw for white. You're worried about queen h5. So it basically doesn't work. So you have to do something else here. And now you don't have knight d7. Feeling kind of like a little bit stuck, right? So it's an example of why bishop d6 was not as good as knight d7 previously. Uh-oh, now he's got like a danger coming. Pawn takes, rook here. Uh-oh. Ouch. Okay, JB having a lot of fun with the extra piece, slowly picking apart the whole queen side. The knights come off of a3 pretty much at the first good opportunity. It was always worthwhile to, you know, save this bishop from the pawn, take this pawn on c6 is worth it. So everything good. Everything good. Happy with that. How's Disco doing here with this opening? Knight f6, bishop g5. Yeah, not the right move. Knight c3 would be the right move. Bishop g5, great answer from black. Hitting b2. Takes, b3. Just trashing white's dark squares, but I don't know if Mr. Disco knows this or not, but on this move, black has bishop h6. So he may have been basically forced to play b3, but that's a horrible move. White is in very, very bad shape after only 5 moves this game. And there was only one mistake that did this whole thing to white, and it's this move. And then black played a punish. It hits e4, it hits b2. There's not really anything to do for white. Bishop g5 is just really, really bad. You guys can see how much an innocent looking move can hurt your position with that one. Okay, so what's going on here? So bishop d5 to try not to lose the piece. Takes here. Now we'll see this rook come over here probably. And this is about to be from India with love. Salma Knight is going to be prevented from crossing 1400 here. Look at that, 1396 rating. Highest rating 1396 today. Up 50 points in this month. Oh man. From India said no, you do not hit 1400 today. How's Elfin's doing this round? He's shaking his head, but this opening looks fine for him. But he's playing really fast. I think he's on tilt again. I think so. You saw how hard he worked in that first game. And it was like a game that really, really hurt. For your opponent to play like such trash, you're in a good position, somehow you can't figure out how to beat them. Then you get upset that you lost at such trash, right? I mean, most of us feel that way, right? Like if you play somebody and they play like, you know, a3, h3, a4, h4, and then somehow they beat you. It's just so frustrating. And then you saw the quick resignation, the instant rematch. What Elfins needs to do is take breaks after games that are frustrating. You know, maybe try and learn something from that game by playing through it. There was no rule that they had to back-to-back their games, you know. They had to do whatever was best for them. So, yeah, obviously chess is full of discouragement, right? I mean, every other game is like, you know, encouraging, discouraging, encouraging, discouraging. So you have to have ways to like cope with that discouragement to still, you know, be your best. And here that had to be like taking a little bit of time. between games, or finding some way to sort of chill a little bit. Okay, he's got a real question. What's going on with this piece now? Right, as the opponent's queen comes here. Indirectly, there's this threat coming into d5. If he plays bishop h3, white can trade him off aggressively and then take the pawn. If he trades on d2 first and then plays bishop h3, same thing, white can trade, queen takes, and then grab this pawn. But if he plays e6 to defend the pawn, then his bishop is kind of trapped out here. So Elfins has to look at like, well, I mean, it's a very tough moment for Elfins. I'm glad to see that he's stopped and really thinking about this move here as well. Because it might need to be something like rook d8 defending the pawn. But then there's knight takes, pawn takes, knight g5. Oh, there's no simple answer here. Shaking his head a little bit. Hopefully he'll come up with something good. What's going on in her game? Hopefully something good. You can see L'Île au Trésor. Oh, he hit a Frenchie. L'Île au Trésor is doing things perfectly, right? Like b3, black's like, yep, let me have a look at that diagonal for you. Knight d2, yeah, I definitely want to look at that diagonal. So, yeah, this is a bit brutal here already. Somebody's offered to draw somewhere on one of the boards. Let me see. JB is up like a million pieces now. That's good. Elfins has offered a draw without moving anything here. So brain test is going to be waiting to see his move. And he plays here. Fancy. What happens on queen d5? Selma Knight has not yet given up the ghost of this bishop or the game, but it's getting there. Queen d2 was kind of like, you know, the simple, just put everything on, but f5, okay. You can play that, I suppose. I mean, it does give black the option to lose a rook for a bishop and then save the bishop, right? Instead of losing a whole bishop. So it's definitely a bad move. I mean, we can just say for sure it's a bad move, right? Because black could just take. And be down less than if white played queen d2. Okay, rook h6. Hoping to keep this piece a little while longer. Maybe white's planning f6 to just lock the rook out. That would be a pretty high-end technique for white. How's Jules de Rezan doing? A little bit low on time, but she's got a queen. Whatever. It's all done but the crying for the opponent. Knight c4 looks good instead of taking this, but there is bishop c3, and nothing really good is ever going to come of this game for white. So we'll see how Mr. Disco can do in a broken position. You tilt more when you analyze them. So for you, you have to not analyze your games in order not to tilt. Okay, Big Bouse has resigned here. Resignation. Maybe saying something rude because JB seems to be upset about something. Nope, she's just got her next game started. Okay. Was there a queen f8 moment? Let's see. Queen g4. Oof. And Cannibal says maybe there's like a queen f8 move. Like if you're going to hang around, maybe this kind of a move can save you. Instead we get this exchange. Queen e8 threatened. Very, very tough game for Selma. Yeah, just play h6. That's what you got to do. How's Mr. Disco doing? Checked by the queen. King pretty much has to come up. We'll see whether or not he accepts that. I mean, on bishop c3, he would have had to move the king anyway. If he tries to refuse and plays like queen d2, he'll lose like his opponent did last game, right? So you just got to go. Queen d3, so the bishop's got to retreat to like one of these squares. You don't want to let white play rook d8 for free, so I would cover that square for a moment. I mean, obviously, we're not going to be able to resist forever with the bishop against white's control of the d file and extra pawn. But I would say bishop c7 is the best you can do for now. From c7, it looks at this weak diagonal for some possible counterplay. It can also go to b6. So bishop c7, very likely the best move from here. Okay, knight c4, check and retreat. Well, no, you've just resigned. There was no point playing that move. They're each playing one game, Giant Solomon. There's just 4 of them. They're not playing each other. They're just playing random people in the pool. Bishop e5. Yeah, it doesn't stop this. Great, John Twitch. How about you? F3. Oh my goodness. This game I can hardly watch. Like my student in a position like this, just getting. I mean, look how weak his dark squares are. Black can just E3 and win the piece. I think Mr. Disco's laughing at his own position. Ugh. God, let's not watch it. Let's not watch it. How's JB's black opening going? A Caro Kann, where whites managed to castle queenside quickly, which is very rare in this opening. Castles. Wow. Bold. Very bold. Good move for black here would be queen a5. I mean, not the only one, but it's definitely a good one because it targets a2. You know, you'd want to get all these pieces out, but queen a5 is really strong. Much stronger than this move here. Weirdly aggressive. I had the same idea to like use this weak spot, but my idea goes here. I'm threatening a2. Here, takes, here, takes, here. And now I go after f2. Once I can use a good square where even if white plays bishop e3 or bishop g3, I'll still have something good to do. And I'll be on a good square even if I don't take on c3. And, you know, here white's going to be in huge trouble. So this move here is just going to bounce off of white, right? It's just a one-move threat on f2. White can just defend it with a move like bishop g3, and then black's knight is on a worse square than it started on. So this is just burning tactical energy, right? For any 1400 to 1600s in attendance, and I see Seth and Nordovik filling up the chat, right? This here is building up tactical energy until you're ready to take advantage of it, right? And this is burning tactical energy, and white played bishop e3, but okay, they should have played bishop g3, and now you can't use this. Now you don't have that available for you. Not only that, you've worsened your own position. Okay, so bishop e3, at least she'll be able to trade her knight for the bishop at some point rather than just coming back to f6 with its tail between its legs, is the expression. I'm just wondering why that means anything. I mean, is the horse's tail not always between their legs? I guess there are some dogs that might stick their tail up when they're feeling more excited and then drop it down when they're feeling sheepish. Selma Knight winning a pawn back on b2. There's still technically some hope. From India has missed a move or two that would have really knocked him out, and the material advantage is not yet overwhelming at their rating level, so Selma can keep playing. Mr. Disco is probably lost by now. f3, e3 was found. Yeah, here. Ow, 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 ow. Yeah. When they're scared. Okay. Interesting. My dog's tail never drops between its legs. It's always up. Perpetual. Oh God, let me not see that position. JB deep in the tank. She had a game with Thierry early on where she didn't like go for like the attack when the opponent was castled opposite sides. She just kind of like sat around for several moves while Thierry created an attack. So let's see if she does anything, you know, proactive here at all. Let's see. Checkmate is threatened. That's looking tough. Elfins has won this game here by abandonment. Oh, White's down all their pieces and just left.
I didn't do my puzzle rush today, so we saw that.
So
You caught
Bishop
me, I didn't do my
E6.
puzzle rush today.
So you did it this game here against Brain Test. Knight
He did it
takes
to
winning
himself.
piece.
He did it to himself. I didn't do anything.
Why did you take with the queen instead of your knight?
Oh, I tunnel visioned. I just saw that I was already winning. I tunnel visioned.
I see.
Genuinely, that's
Trade,
it.
and then saving the knight, and then taking the pieces. Wow.
Yeah, when he played knight e5, I
Mhm.
was completely shocked because I thought really hard because I was like, that just doesn't look right because his queen needed to go to g5 to like have a chance to play the game.
Mhm.
And I thought really hard and I realized, no, he's just losing. And honestly, I just saw that I was coming out with at least one piece. So I probably
Yep.
should, yeah, you're right. I didn't realize I could have just taken with the knight.
Yeah, but I see you spent a lot of time on this move after the opponent played 95, which is perfect. 2 minutes. You were sure of a way to win, and then you just followed up very quickly with your plan of taking all their pieces. So that's fine.
And I mean, I did see that he could take on d5, but I saw that like on d5, like I was like, okay, my knight's not doing, my pieces are doing almost nothing, and I was like, if he actually takes on d5, my pieces will have things to do. But then I did it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really just gave up a pawn. What do I really get? And then I thought, yeah, I guess my first thought was right that I did get something. Some piece, like I guess my pieces
Yeah.
had something to do after that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you had a long think on this knight d6 move, and I think you were feeling a little bit like the position was tough, and you weren't really happy.
Well,
weren't really
I offered
happy
him a
with the
draw,
way it was going, right?
Because I didn't want to play after, after queen b3. I actually just didn't want to play anymore because I was like, there's nothing here. Like this position, I was like, there's nothing in this position. I felt like there was nothing to do, and
Yeah.
so I was like, you know what? The spiciest thing to do, the only way I can like have anything to do is to sacrifice a pawn, and hopefully get some counterplay. I did it, and after I did it, I was like, oh my gosh, am I gonna regret this? But I thought for a bit, and I was like, actually, you know, I've got some more open lines. My pieces have things to do, some more targets, and he blundered with knight e5. Though I think it was a blunder. I don't know.
Wow, Selma Knight is a diehard.
Hey,
Selma Knight is a diehard. All right. There it is. All right. Says good game to the opponent. Very polite. We're left with one game still going. What happened with this game? JB chose to trade her good bishop for the knight and get nothing out of it. And then when h3 was played, retreated this knight instead of taking the opponent's bishop with it. So I gotta tell her the bishops are better than knights. Thierry, any idea why your last game got to such a bad position so fast?
I got move ordered into an opening I never play. Like I never played it before, maybe once. And I think like my third move was already a mistake, right?
Your second move was e4. That's the best move.
No, I mean d5.
Okay. d5
But
is
maybe
also
not.
the best move there.
Yeah, it's also the best move. So after knight f6, I just didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Bishop g5 was all I found, but I'm pretty sure it's a mistake, right?
Yeah, that's right. You
Yeah.
just didn't find the right move here.
Because when you replied with queen b6,
Yeah.
I calculated like a bunch of lines and everything was looking ugly already, right?
Yeah. Everything's already looking pretty bad there.
I don't know why it was so difficult to find a move on bishop g5. I'm sure like the way to protect the pawn must be obvious, but I missed it for some reason.
All right. What are all the candidate moves to defend the e4 pawn?
Well, the ones that defend the e4 pawn but don't lose the b2 pawns are...
Oh, sorry. Before you play bishop g5.
Oh, right.
Because you said bishop g5 was probably a mistake,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I agreed you were right.
Makes more sense. So I had knight c3 as a candidate move, but I don't want to block my c pawn in this position. I want to play c4 eventually.
Okay.
So what was left? I had like bishop d3.
Mm-hmm.
I could move my queen, but that's too weird at this stage. Or I could play f3, which is also weird. So what did I miss?
I think every move you've mentioned
Was less bad than
was better than bishop g5 maybe, but you're not actually missing anything. I mean, you've mentioned the best move in the position.
Knight c6?
Yeah.
Knight c3?
Yeah, just bringing out the knight to its best square and fighting for control over e4 and d5.
I thought you usually wanted your c4 pawn out and the ben on you. I've never played it, but I had this idea in my mind, and maybe that's what destroyed me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you c4 is important in the queen pawn openings when you're fighting for control over the d5 square. Here you're able to control d5 already because your opponent moved the c pawn past it.
Right, because later I traded.
So it's enough to just play knight c3. A pawn on c4 can help like solidify your control over b5 and d5, but it's not necessary. And having the square free makes your bishop and knight better. So it's less solid of a lockdown, but this bishop has some more scope, and this knight can go knight f3, d2 to c4. That's like a very, very famous maneuver because you're likely to get the following pawn structure. Okay, this is like a famous pawn structure that you can get, and one of the strong maneuvers for white is knight to c4.
Yeah.
So you see like h3, bishop f8, bishop f4, a6. You'll always prevent b5, g6 or g6 or knight bd7 or bishop f5 maybe. And then at some point this is like a pretty common maneuver. It's a good square for a piece as well. Bishop or knight in some cases, depends. So yeah, so the correct move is just knight c3. It's just your only healthy move that really defends d5. It develops. It's the corresponding move. All these openings that have like a sharp fight for a pair of squares in the center, you typically need to like fight for that square with the knight. Like that's just like what knights are amazing at doing, is like in the first few moves of a game, they can attack two central squares in like a pair that people are fighting over. And that whole principle of like knights before bishops, which is not a real principle at all, like it comes from this type of opening. The fact that there are certain openings where somebody plays like knight f3 or knight c6, and the only proper way to fight back against the control that piece is exerting is to counter with your own knight. Like e4, e5, knight f3 on move 2, for example. Like, black can't play bishop d6, right? I mean, if they want to fight for e5 and d4, they have to respond with knight c6. It's the only move that sort of stands toe-to-toe with the pressure white's putting on that pair of squares. Why not take on e6 here? Because then all the time that Thierry spent, or you, if you play this opening, Giant Solemn, or anyone else, all the time you spent playing d4, d5 evaporates when you trade on e6, right? You move that pawn all the way up the board just to get rid of it, and then your opponent takes back, and now what do you have to show for your position? The opponent's got a piece out more than you as black on move 4, and you have nothing.
Yeah, I thought about it. This didn't work for me.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know if you guys remember, some of you who are watching, but in Selma Knight's first game that Selma Knight won very comfortably, Selma Knight made one mistake, which was trading a d4 knight on c6 in a Sicilian.
Oh, yeah.
So that was, do I have it? No, I'll make another board. Analysis board. Start. So that was something like this. E4, C5, knight F3, abomination on H6. Or no, that was the other game had H6. No, I think they both played H6 against you guys in the first round. Then A6, knight C6. Bishop E2, E5. And here, this knight, you've spent time putting it on a good square, right? You spent more time on the knight. The knight's better. When you trade, that nice knight disappears, right? So it's not super desirable to trade it. So this would be the one move. I think it was the only move that I didn't like in the first game of Selma Knight. Was knight takes c6 when knight f5 was available. And we can see the knight is, on a pretty superior square. So the time invested moving the knight is there. It's on the board. We can enjoy that value. Whereas as soon as we trade it off, its value has sort of disappeared. Yeah. Okay, so let's watch the one game that we still have going. You guys can all watch it with me here. So last we saw Jules de Raisin played this rook e8 move, and I see that again, like in her game with Thierry from the first week, she's failing to play any aggressive moves to develop an attack against the white king, right? She's not moving the bishop or the rook or the pawns. I don't know what rook e8 would be to do, right?
We talked about those rooks on open files too. I'm disappointed.
So white plays knight g5. Here she coughs up a weakness. White's not threatening queen h7 because the knight's on it. So again, you don't want to cough up a weakness when you don't have to, right? In these opposite side castling positions, you want all the moves to be on the side of the board where their king is. You want to just not even touch the other side if you don't have to. Right? And if people on the other side force you to touch it, you play the least weakening move possible, right? So for example, if there were really a threat on h7, you would probably play knight f8, not g6 or h6, if you could avoid it, right? So you touch it as little as possible. So here, unforced error, h4, and now another unforced error on this side of the board, right? And white may or may not be threatening anything with this h-pawn, but every move that black's playing is making it like better for white, right? Increasing white's chances that these moves are going to help white. So now this knight comes back to the square again. And now e5. e5 was a much better move when white first moved the knight to g5, right? This move here kind of allowed the best version of e5 that could have justified the rook, kind of. While this knight's not there to trade. What should white have done in this position here? Probably advance the g-pawn or plop the knight on e5 just to block in this rook and prepare f4 and g4, I would say. So knight g5 gives black a chance at e5. And now it happens. Rook took. Wow, not the knight. Okay. I would love to see these pieces come out. Love to see C8 and A8 come out.
I feel like that rook has been begging to be on c8 for a long time.
For a long time.
Very desperate.
When did black's c-pawn get traded? Move 3.
Long time ago.
E5, CD5. So right here,
When you
we
move to
already
C pawn, you
want the
to
rook on c8, right?
Yeah.
So Elfins would already want to play rook c8. We know that Selmanite would want to, because in one of Selmanite's games, we saw the rook come to c8 quickly in a similar structure to this. And we are now at move 19, 16 moves later, and there's still a bishop in the rook's way.
Yeah, rook c8's not even playable yet still.
Yeah. Now, bishop f5, rook c8, obviously still the best thing for black to do, right? I mean, it's like sometimes the signpost is really clear, right? It's like put your rook on c8. The teacher doesn't have to change what they say on moves 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Put your rook on c8, please. Put your rook on c8, please. Put your rook on c8, please. That's like what happens when I talk to my kids, right? It's like, it's something like, we should now get out of the street, right? So you're like, let's get out of the street. They stay in the street, cars are coming. You're like, we should still get out of the street. Cars coming closer. Our best move remains getting out of the street.
I think the bishop on c8 is currently in the street.
The bishop on c8 is currently in the street, blocking this rook. This particular street, the C file,
The rook would like to capture the bishop on c8.
was
even.
made for rooks. Yeah, just be like, this will teach you to move.
Yeah.
Just
I think
capture your own
I would
piece.
consider to take the bishop.
Be like, next time you'll get out of my way. All right, very happy to see this move. Miraculously, JB's position is still equal, right? Like, she's not worse at all.
Because rook c8 is still a massive threat. And
Wow,
oh my gosh.
the queen doesn't. The queen is my toddler, running out onto the
rook c8
file.
is still like
Rook c8 might even be playable, sacking the rook. But if this rook saves itself first, you know, like this or something, I mean, white's going to have to deal with rook c8 or rook c6. You never want your queen on this here. Seth thinks rook c8 just wins, huh?
It's, well, I mean, you are stacking a rook, but
Very hard to be sure of.
I mean, you have to think about it anyway. You know, sack your queen in your mind, in your head, then sack your rook in your head, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's correct to not sack the rook here. I think probably rook c6 is a really good move. Getting access to all this stuff, especially c6. But we'll see. Queen d6 defending the rook, and hopefully next move rook c8. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so if she plays rook c8 here, she will instantly win the game after 20 moves of wanting to play rook c8. That will now be the end. Come on, JB, you could be the only one of us to win 2 games today. Ooh, looking good.
It's one of those where when you look at the, when you look back on the analysis on chess.com, it's just telling you to play rook c8 for 15 moves.
Does it do that?
Well, I mean, it'll like, you know, you play through the analysis and it'll say, you
Yeah.
played this, but the best move was rook c8. And then
Okay.
you play the next move. It says,
So like
"You played
20
this,
times in a
but you
row,
should've
like,
played, yeah.
You played knight f6, the best move was rook c8. You played bishop d7, the best move was rook c8. Problem is, because there was a bishop on c8, like the computer can't tell you that the way a coach can, right? The computer will say like the best move was something random that, like, if you understand the position, is preparing rook c8, but if you don't understand the position, you may not be able to figure it out from what the computer says. I mean, it might say bishop d7 at some points. I don't know.
Might even say like b6 randomly, right?
Okay. GPS BTT, feeling the wrath of the dojo suddenly, wondering how this game fell apart because it really was very good for GPS for a long time. Maybe queen c3 was like, oh, what a move! Ho-ho. Fighting back. Impressive. If I were on GPS's coaching squad, I would say, nice work, son. You didn't give up there. You really looked at all your candidate moves. Of course it doesn't work, but look,
It's pretty clever though.
it can work if if the opponent makes a mistake.
It's pretty clever.
B5 was right. That's correct, Dritman. I mean, maybe there were like many moves to win for black, but like the most obvious move would be B5, just saying like, sorry, bishop, this is not going to work out for you. But now it's just regret flipped around. I wonder if the queen hadn't waved that red flag on c3 if JB would have come around to playing rook c8 or not.
Also, she's down to 3 minutes, so I think if she had more time, she probably would have thought out and gotten b5.
Yeah. And there are probably a couple ways to win. It's just a matter of noticing what white's idea is. And it's possible to believe that your opponent's just desperate there when you play rook c8 and you're like, I'm winning, and they play this, and it's like, well, they're just stalling, right? Because they're desperate. But with a little more time, you can double check. All right. This endgame is still, I would say, a little bit challenging for white to win. I mean, I would never like bet the house on an 1100 converting this perfectly. So we'll see if JB can put up some resistance, make GPS prove it. Possible moves for JB here. Yeah, c3 is a possible move. Rook e2 is not a good move because you're forcing white to play rook d2, right? You never want to force your opponent to play good moves, right? Rook e2 just burns energy. You attack white's g2 and c2 pawns, which are both hanging, which is useful for black to have those pawns be loose and undefended. So you don't want to play rook e2 and force a good move from the opponent, right? See, white plays it anyway. Plausible moves for black are things like c3, rook g3, just sort of trying to like tie white down, b5, a5, b4, trying to increase that strength there. You don't need to play c3. If white plays c3, bishop d3 is pretty solid for black. So there's no rush. I really like the king g7 move JB played. She is going to have to like be judicious with her time, right? She played like rook takes c4 pretty quickly for like a key tactical move, and now she's spending quite a bit of time on moves like king g7, and the next move will be something like, you know, h5 or king f6 or a6 that's not worth a minute of her remaining time. Right, like bishop g4, you know, rook f1, bishop f5, it's not worth your time. Good move. I like b5. It was better with the bishop on f5. Now if like a3, a5, black has to watch out for rook d5. And on this move, black can't play bishop d3 right away like they want to. So the bishop should come back to f5. Just admit that that's where it wants to be. It's a very, very nice diagonal there. If instead black plays a5, then rook d5 is a little bit rough for black. Probably b4 keeps the game interesting.
So if black had their bishop on d3, where would they want their rook? Like if black's bishop were on d3, what would be the ideal square for the black rook?
I think it would be pretty good where it is, but likely you would go to g3 with it at some point to tie white to the g pawn and to come up with the idea of playing rook g4 at some point and go after the h pawn. So you would want your rook on the third rank, supporting the bishop and threatening the c3 pawn, because at some point you could play a5, b4, even with your bishop on d3. So you would want that like hidden attack. So rook g3 is just maximizing, right? It's threatening g2 and c3, And it's isolating the two kingside pawns by not letting white connect them.
Ah, I see.
Okay, now she's got to
The
find
rooks can blockade too.
b4, or she'll start losing pawns, which could be the end. It's really too bad she played that bishop g4 move, right? Just burning energy to put her own piece on a worse square. Yeah, you guys can see everybody who's playing here. But while they're playing, they have it on silent. Okay, so f5 like lost the game. Now I would bet on white. This blocks in the bishop and lets the rook go munch. I feel like here she decided the queen side's not working out, so now I'll go play on the king side or something. Yeah, so she's just pushing that thing on that side of the board. Which doesn't like help or do anything.
And you risk your king getting just removed from the game when the rook goes on the 6th rank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not like pleasant either. But the real thing is she gave up too soon on this queen side, right? Like,
yeah,
you just play b4 attacking c3. It's still messy. And
What's the best move in that position? To try to defend?
the best move after rook d5, it would have been to push the b5 pawn to b4. Because if white takes your a5 pawn, you win a pawn back on c3. And if white trades on b4, you take back with the a pawn.
Correct. Okay.
Here there's still some small chances with the rook going to e2 and the bishop going to f5.
Fine.
But I can see time pressure as a struggle for her here. But notice how she's not resigning, Elfins. Even though she put the bishop where white could take it, maybe white won't take it. See? Look at that. You would have resigned right there.
you think he's not going to? Oh, like,
He did not take it. He, she, or they did not take that bishop. You've muted yourself.
is it a glitch? Is this a glitch?
No, not a glitch. Literally, that bishop was hanging. White didn't take it and now goes to go attack it. So, there it goes. Now, this is an example of burning energy as well, right? When you attack the bishop and just force it to a better square.
Yeah, I think someone in chat said White's trolling. He has to be trolling.
Trolling you? Like somehow white knows that you resigned a position like that before someone took your bishop?
I don't know. There's no way. He has 7 minutes. There is no way.
No, there's a way. The rook should come to e2. That allows it to go to c2, and then on king d1, rook b2, rook a2. But, I mean, with the time, it'd be hard for JB to formulate a plan here as that a pawn heads down the board.
But, I mean, you're right. Like, she didn't resign, and she's still got moves to make. And actually, I mean, if she can somehow cheat out the g-pawn, she has a win condition, kind of.
That's the right move. Unfortunately, she played a few too many king moves. But if she had put the bishop and rook on these squares and given this rook check when the pawn was still on a5, she could have saved the game. It would actually still have saved the game. 2 moves ago. If the king goes to b1, you've got rook d2 check and take this rook, wherever it was, d7, d8. And if king here, you can play rook b2. And on a, and if the pawn's not yet queenie, you can get to rook a2. Actually, even here, she could sack her bishop and play rook b1. Maybe even here it's not over yet. I hope she stops assuming that it's over and keeps fighting. Now on a8, it's important not to throw the rook check first. You got to take the queen.
Gosh.
Take the queen, yes! Yes!
Oh my gosh, she's doing it.
She's doing it!
I'm losing it.
Come on, rook b1. No! This is just too dramatic. Too dramatic.
No, but-
Rook back check. Maybe white will go back to D1.
But you know what? She literally had like a good position
Yeah.
at the end of this.
Yeah, like she wasn't just going to draw that. She was going to win if she took the
Yeah,
rook.
like-
Because the G2 pawn falls and then the F pawn queens.
Oh my god.
I mean, you never know when, you know, like what blunders are going to come later under time pressure. But it was winning for
But,
black.
I mean, but she was below 20 seconds multiple times.
Yeah.
And she actually had this game won.
King G3, maybe. Maybe King G3. Actually, she could just check. She could just check. And if the king goes to F2, you check again on B2. Look at that. And then the king has to go to the first rank, and then rook B1. It's a draw by perpetual right here. Oh, my goodness. I hope she didn't hear me thinking King G3. She had a draw by perpetual there again with rook B1. Yeah, a crazy position draw. Okay, now the best she can do is probably like rook c2 to win the c pawn. It's not completely over yet, even here, folks. Like, white may or may not have any endgame technique. Hopefully she's encouraged by white's play so far to keep fighting.
I'm encouraged.
Exactly, right? I always get
I'm
encouraged.
encouraged.
Yeah. Ooh, she's going to try and win with just the f pawn. That is too optimistic. That rook on g1 was like a dead piece. You never trade that rook on g1. You may think that you've calculated that you're doing something with your f pawn. You're always wrong. Don't do it. Don't trade that g1 rook. And notice how GPS is not investing any of that 7 minutes in trying to win the game, right? I mean, never like stopping to like try and find a really good line to win the game. Just
she's
going
up on
move
time,
by
but-
move. Now king f3 wins it. See, here black could have gone back to g2 with the king, right? The king e2 move didn't do anything. The king's still boxed in. It can't progress. So, I mean, it was not like a winning move. Now the king's in position, and this king can't get to its own pawns anymore. I'd try h5 here, but she'll play h3. See, by doing this, she forced white to come up with a good move. Never force your opponents to play good moves. You know, let them come up with some kind of like winning plan on their own. They rarely will. Whew.
Sorry, I was taking so long.
Well, that was dramatic.
That was ridiculous. Oh my gosh,
Great game.
they're ridiculous. I
Found
am
some
so
really good
sad
moves
that
under
this
20
is on
seconds.
stream.
Sorry. Well, you guys did overall okay today. Everybody won one game and lost one game. So that was all right. And hopefully we all learned something today. Elfins, you got to see that you shouldn't have resigned your first game. That's something we have to keep talking about until you stop doing it. There was probably a 20% chance your opponent wasn't going to take your bishop in that first game.
I should have given them a chance to not take my bishop at least.
Yeah, at least give them the chance, right? It's like a 20% chance.
And even then.
And even after they take it, right? Even after they take it, who knows? JB almost won this endgame down a rook. Right? And had like multiple
times.
draws and other things that could have gone that way. In fact, I bet you if you...
Bishop was straight hanging at some point, yeah.
What's that?
Mine too.
I moved my bishop straight into a hanging spot.
Yeah.
I almost resigned.
Exactly.
Then I was like, let's see if they take it. And then they didn't.
And then they didn't. And then they didn't. Instead, they spent 2 moves repositioning their rook to reattack the same bishop that they had already, that they could have taken. They're like,
And then I immediately re-blunder and missed that I can like win the rook.
the rook b1, yeah.
Anyways.
You know what's like a crazy thing in your game, JB, is in the position where you played king to g3 to stop king f2, right? Trying to like win the game there.
Yeah.
You can actually draw if you want to. I mean, I would probably try and beat this guy down a rook, but if you want a draw here, you could just play rook b1 check. The king's only square to defend the rook is f2, right? That you were trying to take away. And then you just come back to b2 with check.
Oh, and perpet?
Their king can't get to the third rank, so you just give a perpetual rook b1, rook b2, rook b1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful in a sense, but I would have been dead set on beating this guy, so I would have kept playing down a rook instead of taking the draw.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I mean, if I wasn't so low on time, like at the end I was just rushing, but if I had seen the tactic, then yeah, but I never really look for draws, I think, but I need to start working on that. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, occasionally. It was, yeah. That was definitely intense. You did a good job using your time. It's a little bit weird at the end how with the 10-second increment you can be like almost flagging for like 2 or 3 moves, and then you play a few fast moves and like you've got a minute on your clock and it's like, oh, should I stop and think about one of my moves, or am I like bulleting? That's a weird feeling. Maybe you have some experience with that, but I have like basically almost never played with a 10-second increment, so I don't really know what it feels like.
Yeah. Just, as soon as I'm under 30 seconds in general,
Me too.
all things are out the window.
Me too. Me too. All right. So from watching you guys play, I'm just going to give you like 2 or 3 minutes of feedback real quick. I know the 14 to 1600s are ready to get in here, but just while it's fresh, just a couple drops of feedback. Elfins. So obviously you shouldn't have resigned that game, but once you did, I think you should pause before you start your next game, because I think you tend to tilt, and like starting the new game instantly, you don't have to. You can take a moment to collect yourself before you start the next game. So I think for you, it'd be really good to do some kind of brief head clearing after a game that upsets you.
Actually, about 5 minutes into the second game, I started then replaying the first game in my head.
Yeah, you hadn't yet gotten it out of your system. That first game was a game that would have really like upset me too, as I was saying. I mean, you guys can all check the VOD and see a lot of comments on your games live. But that first game you played would have really upset me as well, and I would have taken a break afterwards. I mean, not like for an hour, but I mean, I would have probably looked at the game for 3 to 5 minutes, learned something from it, processed it, and then when I start my next game, I'm not still stuck in the previous game. Thierry, really good job exploiting an opening mistake from your opponent in round 1. Something which, I noted as a weakness for you before, but you really just, I mean, they played a léger mistake, right? Just like a tiny little thing, right? Bishop f5, it's a developing move, like what's wrong, and you found it. Like a very strong series of moves, so that was super. And then the next game was sort of disastrous, but you could definitely have like fought a little bit better once it was a disaster. I think when the opponent played queen b6, you already realized that things were going badly for you, and you really just let them do like whatever that game. You moved back and forth, and it like every move your position was worse than the move before, I would say. So once queen b6 comes in, you're like, oh shoot, b2 and e4 are hanging, what can I do? You have to play something more resistant than what you did. Giving up your bishop for the knight probably like makes things worse. So like a good move would be to say, well, if like my pawns are hanging and like the knight's coming to e4, what's the best I can do? Let's play like knight d2. Defend my center pawn, let them spend time taking a b pawn with their queen. Right? That's a plausible position for you. I don't know if you would notice this tactic, but on knight c4, queen check, you have bishop d2. And that's immediately very complicated. So if they take your pawn on b2, you even have this knight c4 move where they might have to do something like queen b4 check. You can play bishop d2. The queen goes to a weird square on a4. And now with this pawn structure, you know, maybe you play something like bishop d3. You have like a bit of a mess here going on. You're down a pawn, but like at your rating level, it's just like absolute toss up, right? Does that make sense? It's like,
yeah,
whatever. You dropped a pawn, you got a piece out. You know, maybe a GM could say like, oh, this is not a correct pawn sack because of this one like variation, but odds of finding all the right moves for your opponent, it's basically just random at this point, right? So that would be like one move that would be better, and then like going a little bit forward with it, you trade off, play b3. I would still basically like rather lose a pawn than spend time playing like b3. Like even here, I would probably now play knight c3 instead of knight d2. And then on queen here, develop this knight to defend that knight. And just play rook b1 and develop your pieces. I'd rather be down a pawn than have like no pieces out and just weaknesses everywhere. Because like surely you're going, like you have to know when your position's so bad that you're going to lose a pawn. And if you try and delay it, it just makes it worse. I don't know if you know that, but...
Yeah, but if I had seen that, I would have gone for it. I thought once he takes the pawn, I'm just in trouble with other stuff. But I should have seen how to consolidate afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, he's got no other pieces out. So if his queen goes on a rampage, like you could lose a pawn or two, but you can't... There's no coordinated attack that's going to end the game. But you see, once this bishop comes in, now suddenly there are like combinations possible. Like in this knight c4 position, you could play queen d2, bishop c3, and lose the game.
Yeah, I saw
right?
that.
So when it's just the queen, you really have like options. And like here, for example, queen check. I mean, I think you got to play a move like king e2. And recognize already when you played knight c4. I mean, if your opponent played... Sorry, after you took, when you play knight c4, if your opponent plays bishop c3, I'm sure your plan was already king e2, right? So...
sorry, you froze for me. I think it's my connection, but yeah, I thought about queen e2, I mean king e2 on queen check.
Yep.
But...
Yeah. That's the best you can do.
I was so late on my development that if I block in my bishop, I'm never getting out of this position.
Yeah. But that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do there. It's giving you some chances. Like, you know, next move you play a3, queen b5, knight d6, and you win their queen or something. Oh, you can't even play knight d6. That's a problem. But I don't know. You can't just come back. You know, if like you're moving back and forth and they're taking your center pawns, it's just getting worse. So you have to go for something. Yeah. I think in general with this one.
It's the same mistake as the game with JB in the first practice session where I got super low on time. It's that I disliked my position so much after 5 moves that then I go off the deep end and I sort of give up or spend too much time calculate positions that don't work.
So you have to be more comfortable with just giving up a little something that's like the right amount to give up and then just keep playing. And you can see that by the time you lost a pawn, it was worse than like your previous chance to sack a pawn, which was worse than your previous chance to sack a pawn, right? The whole time your position was just getting worse because your dark squares were getting weaker and weaker. Selma, you played great today. In the second game, the knight e4 move, I guess, wasn't good, but it was like a tricky position. Like you'd played good moves and it was a tricky position. You didn't quite know what to do. So nothing to blame yourself about there. Right? Sure. Like chess is going to constantly provide us with difficult questions. We will not always have the answers. Okay? So we need to like accept that, right? If you're playing errors that I think are like appropriate for you, like there's no reason to beat yourself up over it, right? So that error was absolutely appropriate. given the difficulty of the position you were in, the difficulty level of like what was the right move for you there instead of knight e4. Like knight e4 may look very bad, but what is black supposed to play is very hard to find, and so a lot of people will play a bad move in that position, be it knight e4 or some other move. So that's totally normal and acceptable. And you guys have to have some sense of what is or isn't at your level as far as like how kind you are to yourselves, right? And what your learning goals are, right? There are mistakes where you can say like, I shouldn't make a mistake like that. And there are mistakes that you just have to accept that is like reasonable, right? So like JB, maybe some mistakes in that time scramble, you have to say like, well, when I have 20 seconds on my clock, like there are going to be some mistakes, right? Like it can't be like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed, you know, some like weird, complicated like move. Right? It's more a question of like what led up to that and if you used your time well during the game, right? So I think there was some point where you spent a minute playing king g7 and then on the next move spent another minute moving your bishop 1 square at the start of that endgame. There was a point where you went from 3 minutes down to like 1 minute or less on some pretty standard moves. Maybe spending time on one of them is fine because you're orienting yourself to the endgame, but you can't play like multiple super slow moves in a row when they're moves that don't do anything. Like they're not like bad moves not doing something, but just like moves that aren't deciding the game for or against you. It's just, you know, if I spent a minute every time I played h3 or knight f3, it would be a problem. Okay. Cool. Hopefully I said something to each of you. I'm going to bring in the next group now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
All right. It was really fun. Thanks for playing so hard these games.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right.
What up, what up, what up?
Hey.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
I
How do you know I was ready for you?
just felt it. One of those senses.
Yeah. Hey.
All right. Good morning.
Hello. Morning.
All right. I'll fix the view a little bit in a moment. You guys are experiencing that I'm always having fun and I'm always going over when I'm teaching chess. So sorry about that, but Fall can start planning to like sleep in an extra 10 minutes or 15 minutes as he gets the hang of this.
It's all good.
I used to try and like line up my lessons like to be back to back so that I wouldn't spend like 3 hours on a 1 hour lesson that I was getting paid for like 1 hour for, like back when I was, in college and getting like $35 for a lesson. But then it just meant like every lesson would be pushed back. It's never quite worked for me. And I would like schedule them like an hour and 15 apart so that there'd be like 15 extra minutes for the student, but it just was still a problem. Anyway.
Yeah, I have similar problems with the time and
with your classes.
Oh man, I never get anything close to what I want done in a class. But,
yeah.
And then, but I like, yeah, and even when I was like a tutor too, if I remember back, I would tutor and be like, it was the same thing. Like you're getting paid for an hour. They're gonna pay you for an hour or whatever to tutor their kid, and then you would just, like, all right, I still have things to show you, so I don't,
Right.
It's your, yeah.
You can't just leave the kid like that.
Right.
Okay. All right. I'm just fixing name tags and stuff for a second here.
Yeah, I was just like reading chat and I was realizing how many games I think I've seen Elfins resign on stream, and I'm just like, it's kind of painful.
He's
Like,
watching, man. He's watching.
why? I know. I'm just saying. It's like he was talking about
Yeah.
putting a mod on there to like on his browser, like an extension to just like cover the resign button.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Man.
that would do something.
I never resign,
Yep.
and I'll keep playing, and I'm like, oh, I hate that I don't resign.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
very
you
quick
don't have
resigning.
to. I mean, everybody's allowed to
I know I don't have to, but, like, I'm
modify
just, like,
things to improve their own experience, but I really don't believe that Elfins is like enjoying the results of going on Tilt. I just can't imagine that he's like, I love tilting.
Hey,
It's really
JB,
good. Wouldn't be me without it.
JB, Elfins doesn't give himself a chance to get a break. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also part of my like never resign philosophy is like so that I don't like rage resign, you know. So it's like if I just take it off the table altogether, I'm never even thinking about it.
Right. Yeah. Like me with the draw offer. Like I just eliminated draw offer as like one of the ways you can draw a game. You can draw a game by like repeating positions. You can draw a game by like, just going back and forth forever. But I did that for myself in tournaments long, long ago. And
Yeah, because I feel like also if you're offering a draw, you start to like stop playing the game for a second. I don't know, just mentally. That's how I think. Like you're like, man, because the moment you offer a draw, you're like hoping they take it.
right.
You're like trying to relieve yourself of that game
Yeah.
instead of just like being intensely in it, just fighting.
Yep. As soon as somebody offers a draw in the deadest drawn position, I'm like, okay, I've got a chance to win. This person's like wanting a draw, and when I make a move, they're going to be disappointed. So,
It's all psychological. That's all chess is.
yeah. All right. So here's what we're going to do in practice today. You guys are going to play openings against each other. All right. And the name of the game today is Sin. If your opponent plays a move which you think, according to last week's lesson, if you all still remember it, if you think your opponent plays a move which is a sin, then you pause the clock and you call sin. I know you can't pause the clock on chess.com, but I mean you reconnect your video, your voice chat or whatever, right?
Fair.
And you call sin, and I will adjudicate that you're right or wrong. If you correctly call sin, you get a point right there. You don't have to play it
Oh
out.
man, this is fun.
So first
to
to
make sure-
sin loses.
But if you call sin and you're wrong, you lose a point.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Can I just call sin on 1d4? Like, is that fair?
No.
You can try. You can see what I say.
But yeah, like what? All right, I guess
I'm going to define it a little bit before I send you off to play.
Okay, good. Yeah, like I'm like, is there like a degree of sin?
Yes.
Okay.
We must define the degree.
Yeah, so sin is worse. That has to be worse than like not knowing theory and playing a normal developing move.
If the normal developing move is the bishop g5 move that Disco played last round, that would be a
I
sin.
didn't see it, but
Yeah, I'll show it to you.
No man, just putting Disco under the spotlight. We're putting everybody under the spotlight.
Whatever. I thought a couple of you were watching, so it would be an easy example for you. So basically, well, I don't know if you can see this position. I could send you the link if you want. You see it?
okay, because you can just play bishop b7.
Well, and queen b6 hitting e4 and b2, and white
that-
white just got wrecked. So basically, sin is going to be something that's punishable. That's the key point. I only want you guys to claim sin if it's punishable. So if you've got, let's say, a locked up position where no one can do anything quickly and your opponent like wastes a move, like They play rook a1 to b1, and it doesn't matter which square the rook's on, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's pointless to say sin, right? Like maybe there's some move that slightly improved their position, but it didn't matter.
Does it have to be like a concrete punishment, or just like
you don't have to see the punishment, right? You're just giving me your instinct that there's a way to punish there.
Gotcha.
And I will evaluate if there is or isn't.
Like but punish could be like gain an initiative, or would it have to be like win a pawn or win like
taking over the initiative might be good enough.
Okay.
Depending on, we can
live and learn.
Yeah, so like in general, I would say the positions we're going to be talking about, like the error is going to come before you can calculate like, oh, I can win a pawn, right? It's going to be like pretty early. Like for example, I'll give you another example. If you can see my second board on stream for a second. So like the opponent plays like h6 on move 2.
Okay.
Right? There's not like white's going to go like win a pawn in response to that. White's not even going to develop like an initiative like within the next 3 moves or whatever. But this is like a sin.
Sure.
Your opponent plays h6, like you're going to get like an amazing game. You're not going to try and punish them now. You're going to play 5 or 6 more normal moves. But you know in advance that somewhere around move like 7 to 10, you're going to reach a position where you can punish them for this.
Do we have to explain our line to be able to to get our
It's just your instinct, and I judge you right or wrong.
Okay.
Cool.
Right? So like for example, if you wanted to call h6 a sin, right? What are you supposed to tell me to prove that it's like wrong, right? I can see that I will play d4, cd4, knight d4, and then like 6 moves later, I'm going to play g4, g5, and open the g file. No, there's no way you could quote me some long variation. You guys aren't Sam Shankland. So you just tell me it's a bad move, right? But it's a bad move of the degree where you're going to try and punish your opponent in the opening. You're not just like, that's the second best move in this position. I know the opening theory.
Okay.
Like now it's plus 0.2 instead of 0.15. I don't care. Right? It's something that you think is punishable. So it could be like a normal developing move like this bishop g5. It could be something like h6, a complete waste of a move that slightly weakens f7 and g6. Right? Yeah. Or it could be like hanging a piece and you say like, yeah, he hung his piece. I see it.
That's the thing, yeah.
Could be that too.
What I do.
Is that reasonable?
Sounds great.
Sin meaning punishable offense. Anyone want clarification?
No.
All right.
Hope for Shock was in the chat just a minute ago.
Oh.
What was in the chat?
Hope for Shock. Playing 1h4.
Oh, yeah.
That's a sin.
1h4 is not punishable. I'll say that for Opferschach.
Okay.
White plays h4.
Then you shouldn't be complaining about 2h6.
h4, it increases the scope of the rook, takes some space on the king side, doesn't create any like dramatic weaknesses. Black's not in position to take advantage. It's okay.
No sin.
Definitely not White's best move. But Black's not in a position to punish at all.
Okay.
I refuse to spend time talking about 1h4.
Okay, that's fine.
But okay.
That's fine. Rook h3 would be like a bad move next. Anyway, I'm just going to have to be the judge for today, so that's just something you guys have to deal with. And obviously, I'm not infallible, but I'm the best judge we have for today, so that's how it'll be. All right. So I'm going to make a little thing where I can tally points.
So are we going to do like a round robin as far as who we're playing, or?
Yeah, I'll probably bounce you guys around.
Okay.
Even though it'll be like confusing because of like, the Zoom windows and the boards, but it's what's best for the training for us to have different. So, yeah.
And time control?
Since we're only going to play like 10 or moves or so. I think probably 5 minutes is plenty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? That way we can get some more reps in. And like if you get to move 10 and nobody's sinned, you just agree to a draw and start another game.
Okay.
Okay.
So you can make it unrated.
If someone is sinned, we stop playing that game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As soon as somebody calls sin, the game's over. Or
So should we automatically rematch until we get to a sin that and not switch partners? Is that what you're saying?
I think we'll probably just switch every game.
Okay, every game. Okay.
All right. And let's say, yeah, just make it unrated because we're not actually playing chess. We're just playing sin. And let's give it 12 moves.
12.
Yeah, let's make it 12 moves.
Okay.
All right, and I will just make a little score sheet here.
And frankly, we don't really need to mute either. I just realized because
I mean, David's probably gonna
because
be
if there's a sin, but if there's a sin, then it's like, oh, you
can
might
join
say
back
that
into
was
the
a
audio.
sin.
I'm
You
gonna
might
be
comment that it was a
commenting.
sin. Right. Yeah. I was just thinking since it's unrated, but you would say, oh, that was a sin, so somebody could call it,
And then
Yeah,
someone
I
could
see,
call
okay.
it.
Yep. That makes sense.
All right, I'm putting a little like score thing here. Actually, better if I take these, put them here. All right, we'll just tally your points. Right in the middle here.
Cool.
All right. Sorry, I'm just messing with it so that it's a good show. All right, we're ready. Over here, I will follow Seth. You guys can start your games whenever you're ready.
Wait, who's playing whom?
Who's playing who? Yeah.
Seth, you can challenge Nordvik first, I guess.
All right. Coming in. Is it 5 minute? Did we say?
Yeah. Falk, I'll send you a challenge.
Yeah, okay.
5 minute unrated.
All right.
Oh, and sorry. As you know, he's Clark DH, not Nordvik when you're.
Yeah. I get
And colors are always random, or do we swap?
And just a point of order here, probably just
Yeah.
resign or offer draw when you do it, because the person doesn't know that you just unmuted necessarily.
Yeah.
So just like offer a draw or something,
Yeah.
comment, when you're calling sin.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
Which
Yeah.
side do we play? Like, do
Doesn't
we get to
matter.
play black or white?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna have it be random. Okay, I'm gonna leave audio now.
All right. Yeah, me too. And then I'll challenge.
All right. So let's put in their scores. They're at 0, 0, 0, 0. All right, so what do we have? We've got Falk and Drit over here. We've got Seth and Clark over here. Great. All right, Seth laughs a little bit about the modern defense, but accepts it. Bishop comes out to g5 here against the Queen's Indian. Okay. G5. Wow. Aggressive, but okay. This bishop ends up being limited here. Black can play d6 and bishop g7 even here. This opening is even played with a bishop on b4 and knight on c3. It's like a standard position. Here it'll probably be even better to have the bishop on g7 instead of b4. Probably. But we'll see how he wants to handle it. It's a tense moment for black here between, maybe wanting to play knight e4, maybe wanting to play d6. Okay, just developing here looks fine so far. I'm not going to watch their videos or anything. I'm going to assume that they're going to know how to scream sin loud enough to get my attention if the moment comes. Knight into e4. Looks good. You have to account for bishop e5, but f6, bishop back is fine for black because they're planning to play f5 as well, I think. Bishop e5, f6, some crazy knight move. Pawn takes bishop. Queen h5 will be okay for black. They can accept that piece, yeah. So bishop e5, black can play f6. I guess that is a strategy, Thierry, to purposely play extravagant moves that you think are correct so your opponent falsely calls sin. Yeah. Absolutely. Could be a strategy within the game of sin. We're seeing the first developments of game theory for this game as it's now being played for the first time. Clark and Seth are playing very, very slow and carefully so far with these early moves. Falk and Drit, more complex. More risky. I mean, it's not even necessarily risky just yet. It's just more complex, intricate. If white plays knight c3, bishop b4, it actually transposes into opening theory. Sin is definitely only opening practice, yeah. Why not call it vice? I don't know. I've just used and heard the word sin used for so many years, Snargle. I just use it. All right, bishop d3. I like it from Falk. Challenging for the key square, but not yet committing this knight. Every move is a big move for Dritman here, so it's again a big move here. Is he going to play like f5? Is he going to develop the bishop? Is he going to give check or here? There's multiple moves that are okay. Maybe even d6 playable. Good move from Clark. Seth's looking at playing bishop h6, which would be very, very aggressive in the opening. And if he does, you want to be able to punish him. So, like, let's say bishop h6 is a bad idea for white at this point and you should develop more pieces. If Clark played a move like rook b8 or a6 or something like that, then he wouldn't be in position to punish bishop h6, right? So he couldn't actually call sin if his position weren't strong enough to punish a not that great move from the opponent. So c5 is nice because if Seth plays like an extravagant move, which his queen d2 move, instead of developing the knight or the rook, signals he might have some frisky ideas in mind. If he does play something extravagant, black will be in better position to punish thanks to this move. I mean, it's also just basically correct for this bishop, right? So playing correct moves increases your chance of punishing errors from the opponent. Is the Stafford Gambit a sin? Absolutely, Thierry. You can punish black by winning the game. I'm going to grab some water. Any move that just loses the game when you're not in a losing position is an obvious sin. Oh, man, this thing in my back is driving me crazy. How is this as a show, by the way, folks? Like these group sessions, the 12 and the 1400 groups. Is this fun to watch as well? T5 is the right move from Seth there. What's the plan on knight e5 f4? Just to come back to d7? That seems pretty dubious. Seems pretty dubious. What's Seth thinking? Seth's thinking, no matter what I do, I lose every game. And Nordvik's thinking, I'm playing chess. This is awesome, dude. And Drit is like, I gotta find the right move. And Falk is like, I gotta wake up. There you go. That's how to read your opponents, folks. F5? Who played F5? Oh, Dritman. Very good. Very good. Solid. And with the bishop on g7 instead of b4. I've never seen this position before, guys. It's not opening theory, but this is good. Good. Seth's just like running down his clock, calculating whether or not.
I think I think he sent.
Oh, we've got sin called by Falk. I was about to say Seth's spending all his time on this last move, deciding whether or not to call sin on that move there, 95. All right. So, Falk has called it against Dritman for the move f5.
Hello.
Hey, Drit.
I'm assuming Falk is calling sin on me.
Yeah, Falk's calling sin.
I thought it was a mistake, but I'm not sure.
On f5, yeah.
Well,
so
you were down on the clock, so
he avoided flagging by calling sin.
Maybe I respect the strategy either way. But yeah, so should he explain why it's a sin, or should I defend it?
Nope. I'll just tell you guys f5's a good move.
Okay.
Falk's score has been adjusted into the negatives. You guys can wait.
It wasn't working because like bishop e5, and if he takes, knight takes, and then queen h5.
Okay.
And then it's like all open.
Yeah, bishop e5 seems playable. Black can respond with something like castling or queen e7 or.
Okay.
The game will go on. Black could probably even play knight back to f6.
But isn't it too weakening, like to open it all up?
Right? If Black just plays knight back to f6, then next move they'll play d6. You'll probably go back to g3. Game will go on. Yeah. I think everything he's done is reasonable. So first of all, like this could be weakening, but there's two questions. One, did he weaken himself and lose time? No. He didn't lose time, right? Because he got the tempi off your bishop. So it's only like, is it weakening, right? And then the second thing is, can he cover or back up or like justify the space that he's grabbed, right? And the answer is that he can, right? His pieces are generally in position, right? Bishop on g7, queen f6, he's restraining e4, you know.
Okay.
But your idea to play bishop e5 here is probably a pretty good move, actually. I like that move. I think Dritman might have to retreat knight f6, which he may not love playing a retreating move. But I think he may have to play the retreating move to get a good position by then following up with d6. But no, I think he played the opening actually quite pristine. All right, who's calling sin on the other board?
I guess I am.
Okay.
Okay.
For...
So, I guess I need... So, when you call sin, are you calling it for one exact move and on that move?
Yep.
Or can it be like a series of, or an idea gone bad or something?
I mean, if you're gonna say here like he shouldn't have fianchetted his bishop, then you should have said it back then, right?
Okay. Yeah. No. Not
so
that. Okay.
it has to be pretty well like involved with this move. Now, if you think the idea was sort of like that, there's some idea that's wrong all along, then basically you're saying now I think he's gone to the point where it's punishable. So
Okay.
let's say I played like a6 with the plan of b5. But you think on its own, like a6 is not so bad, like the game just goes on, like a6, castles, whatever. But then I play b5 and you're like, okay, now like, you know, you followed up on your bad idea and you're down a pawn.
Yeah. So maybe it's. I mean, I don't know. I debated, but we were almost out of time anyway. So so might as well go for it. I think this queen a5. I think my next move is I'm going to take his knight on e5, and I don't think he should allow that.
This is the checkers game where grandson.
Because I'm gonna take it. He's gonna recapture and you know, like permanently kill his bishop. Which he kind of spent some time when he played. I don't know, but like he challenged the center, kind of opened the diagonal a little bit for that bishop, but now it's not gonna probably ever be open again.
Yeah,
maybe. And and so
knight takes e5 is bad for black. Bishop on g7 suffers and complains.
And then the pawn and now you have a weak. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess not. You don't have any super weak pawns. You do double pawns.
Not super weak yet, but the e5 and c5 pawns are not like the best. And black's position is kind of passive with that bishop on g7. They might feel like locked into trying pawn breaks like e6 and f5. And none of those moves are actually going to help black. Like they'll all just bounce off against white's e4, d5 pawn structure. White's advantage will be basically unassailable. So, Seth, you got a point.
Too much space.
You can challenge Drit now. And Nordovik, you can challenge Falk. 5 minutes, unrated, 12 moves.
Right,
you guys might want to play like a touch faster, since nobody was going to make it to move 12.
Yeah, all right. Good point.
just like 20 seconds faster, maybe. Not a big deal.
All right. I'm going to challenge in a sec.
Oh, by the way, they're already gone. It's fine. It's fine. Better to keep playing. All right. So now I'm watching Falk on both boards. It's confusing. So let me try. To switch over here. Okay. Okay. Well, the faces aren't in line with the games or anything, but anyway, Seth's an opening theory here with the Sveshnikov. Here we've got a Queen's Gambit declined. Hello, Das Duke. Here's a video I made for you. Seth and Drit playing some serious theory. Maybe I'll give them each a point for making 12 moves without a sin. The scoring system for this game has yet to be refined. That video, Das Ducatol, has helped many a player make it from 300 to 1200, from 700 to 1200, from 800 to 1200. Watch that video and you will be, and within a few months, you should be at the level of these groups. I don't know if they have some openings in common in their repertoire's Metabolic Error. I mean, I know that Nordovik or Clark DH basically doesn't have an opening repertoire. He just plays whatever moves he thinks of. Seth definitely plays the Sveshnikov. That's fine, Dustukatol. We've got a lot of people who come into the dojo at 700. Then they play a couple tournaments, watch that video, do some tactics, follow the advice in the video, and then 3 to 6 months later, they're around 1100 to 1200. Okay, Queen's Gambit declined. Bishop b4. Last time we saw Clark play an opening like this, he put the knight on c6, so this looks already an improvement. The group before them were 1200 to 1400 Dustukatol. This group is 1400 to 1600. But we've got several people who can testify and chat with you that they were 700 a few months ago.
Should we? That's 12 moves.
Yep, you guys can just rematch. You each made it
All
through
right.
12 moves without a sin. I'm giving you points.
All right.
So just do a rematch because it was quick.
David, we're done at move 12, right?
Yeah. So just rematch each other because your game was a lot faster than theirs.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, they're back at it. C5, wow. Probably acceptable, but definitely frisky. Normally you would like probably castle, your opponent plays e3 and then you play c5. So it's maybe not a big deal. Interesting, Tilly. Interesting. Cloud's Hat wouldn't want to give up this bishop in an upcoming trade. Yeah, no, I don't check the engine metabolic error. We're just going with my judgments as good or as bad as they may be. That's just what we're using. Notice that Drit and Seth have already caught up to move 7 with Falk and Clark. Well, you guys can't see the move list, but each game is at move 7 now on the second game. So good that they're getting a second game in. King Gnomes, right now, these are the only two groups I'm doing, 12 to 1400 and 1400 to 1600. But, I mean, over the course of a week, we have tons of different shows that might be of interest. But I think you're asking specifically about this kind of like group class. And yeah, these are, I'm just doing 2 pods here. D6, since white can't go D5 and E4. I don't know. Is that a big deal, Legion? Testucatol. I just said I have 2 classes for 12 to 1400 and 1400 to 1600. They're my only 2 classes. Do you know what the answer to your question is? Can you analyze the information you have and try and answer your question with it? Sorry, that's just me clicking. Takes. Oh yeah, I think bishop b5 would be a punish from Falk here, because if castles, then bishop c6, rook b8, bishop f4. And if bishop b7, he's got knight e5. So I think he's already punishing here, but just didn't say it. Yeah, you may have been right, Clouds, that b6. Right, b6, there was a trade, and then... Alright, somebody's connecting audio. Got a team coming in.
I said I wanted to call Sin.
Okay.
Sorry, I was muted.
Yep.
On just that bishop. I just feel like I can close off that bishop's access, and there's not a lot of threat by taking my knight.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just get all the development I want. And so if I can shut that bishop off with a c4 move,
Mm-hmm.
and then I mean it's a bishop, and what's he getting out of it? And then that bishop sort of just closed off from the rest of the position. It's overextended.
So you think he'll be forced to like trade it and not really get anything out of the trade?
Yeah, I mean, I could even force a trade with a6 or like there's just other things, and like that bishop just feels overextended to me.
Okay. I thought I was already winning.
That's correct. That's correct.
Oh no! Oh wow!
This felt so overwhelming for me. Like everything is like pinned and hanging.
Sin.
Right.
That's interesting.
Because you like have not yet lost a pawn or so.
That's okay. If you think he's played a move that should lose, even if you can't find the way to win against it, you call Sin, right? Like Clark's not saying he knows exactly how to like win this position as black or something. He's just saying he thinks you've played a really bad move that there's some way to take advantage of. Basically, if I can find the way to take advantage of it for you, you don't have to find it. You just have to be like, David, is there a way?
I mean, I didn't like a lot of moves. Like, I didn't like b6. I didn't like knight d7.
Yeah.
All of this felt like, and c5 felt like it came too early or at the wrong time to me. Like, I don't know. I didn't like all of those.
Yeah. I mean, these other moves so far aren't really punishable, but when Nordvik played b6, that's when a very strong player in chat called Sin. And I wasn't sure yet, but because I was watching 2 games, I was just like, okay, interesting. Like, it did feel like Nordvik needed to castle here. And that is, it turns out it's correct, because after b6, you can take bishop b5, and you're threatening bishop c6, rook b8, bishop f4, trapping the rook. And at the same time, you're threatening knight e5, and then the knight on f6 and d7 are under too much pressure at the same time.
So this was actually imploding for me. Even when I thought I could just cut off that bishop and have a field day.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because I felt like my pieces were pretty well coordinated, were together in a structure, and then the bishop was just out there on its own. Like, that was like my psychology looking at the position. It didn't feel like I was in some sort of impending trouble at all, which is unfortunate if that is the case.
My opponent committed a chess.com sin and thought too much about their move.
Oh yeah.
Should we
What happened? Oh, chess.com just abandoned the game without you guys getting to finish it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We could like recreate the position, I guess, if we wanted to.
Dylan, Drit, you're still muted, but I think we could just say no score on this game since the others just finished too.
I was thinking about calling Sin here. I mean, I think it's like a slight inaccuracy, but I don't think it's a bad move. So it's more about definition of Sin. But
Right. So the definition that I gave you the best I could was something that you can punish, right? And
does getting C5 in count as punishment?
C5.
Probably not.
I mean, it counts as like a nice equalizing move. You're right that bishop d2 is inaccurate, and that c5 is a great move for you.
I didn't like bishop d2. I played it. I was just like taking so long and like gotta play something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would have played c5 here, and then the game goes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a sin or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like on the border, maybe. But I think that white should be okay. Basically, and this is just me being like giving you my instinct, right? My instinct is that white can get away with a move like bishop d2 in the opening.
But that's because they're white, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I
mean, c5's plausible, but look, white could play d5, pawn takes, knight h4 maybe. That's like a typical thing for white to do. Is there any particular reason to think that black's better? No. Like maybe you can equalize the position, but you know, white's moves are fine.
I did figure it wasn't the best.
I'm fine with zeros.
Yeah.
Sure,
If white played, you know, maybe like a3 here, certainly not the best move. You would be pretty confident, but again, you couldn't like take advantage of it. It would just be whatever.
I don't have a great grasp on this.
I think rookie 1 e4 is the better idea for white.
Rookie 1 threatening e4. Yeah, some people in chat were saying they would play d5 for white here proactively.
D5, I thought about it, but
I don't think it's necessarily a huge deal. Another move, another pair of moves you guys should consider, or that Seth should consider, are queen d3 and queen c2.
Queen b3.
Queen d3 and queen c2.
Queen d3. I was like queen b.
Similar to Drit telling you rookie 1, like it's kind of like e4 is a big square for you to fight for here.
Yeah, yeah.
A move that's bad is like bishop g5 because you don't want to trade that bishop. I mean, it's not punishable bad.
Yeah, right. Well, like bishop because bishop g5, bishop g5 I felt was bad, and bishop f4 feels kind of bad too.
Yep.
So where does it go?
I mean, I don't think the bishop has to move if it doesn't have a good square to move to.
But
it's not like this is an open position where you need to connect the rooks yet.
Yeah, there's no file for them to fight on anyway.
You're right. Well, I don't know. So the only thing I could think to do was bishop d2, and then maybe think about like an a4 thrust and look at developing my rook that way.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
Funnily enough, in a lot of these positions, people as black play like knight e4 proactively to get control of that square. And had Drit played knight e4 last move instead of d6, for example, then a very common response is bishop d2.
Nice. I just wasn't sure how good e4 is in this Queen's Indian position, but I guess it's
good.
I mean,
he won't allow it.
The point of the Queen's Indian for black is to prevent e4. So if you can play e4, it has to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. e4 is like your main goal.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Even with the Fiang.
We're gonna repair. Challenge whoever you haven't played yet, which is I think like Drit and Nordovik.
Yeah, if you challenge me.
Okay.
Yeah. Scores are currently 2 points for Seth, 1 point for Drit, and -1 each for Nordovik and Falk.
Will not get a point if he called sin on me?
Nope.
I think I only got one.
He got a negative, but
how did I get 2?
Drit and Seth each got a point for playing a 12-move game with 0 mistakes.
Oh, I feel a little cheap for that one, but yeah.
I mean, some people would say playing a game with no mistakes is like the best way to score points in chess.
It's an opening. I just play all the time and know so well, and it goes pretty deep. Anyway, all right.
Don't worry. If you guys start doing too well, I've got a plan to shuffle things up.
Gotcha. All right. Oh, sorry, Fall. Can you send the challenge? Did he leave?
Oh, I think I played a random person.
He's playing Chef House. Chef
Yeah, let me
House.
surrender.
All right, let me leave.
All right, next round is on. All right, I'm going to put up a poll, guys. Let's make this more exciting for the fans. It's an obvious poll. Ooh, Falcon Seth looking at some theory again. This is an opening of the week he's going for, maybe with Queen A5, right? Wait, game already drawn. What's going on over here?
That was fast. It looks like Drit's already calling Sin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Dang. Well, that was quick.
Good job, Drit. You're now tied for the lead with Seth with 2 points.
Go Falk.
Yeah. You can rematch him if you want to try and farm him for points, since that was fast.
Very fast.
I'll go again if you just want to do it for fun. It doesn't have to count for scoreboard even.
Everything counts for points.
Everything counts.
Yeah, we can just play again. I mean, might as well. Also, I've had black 3 times in a row. So
is that right? At some point, the algorithm has to give you white, right?
I guess. There
give
we
you
go.
a chance to punish somebody. There we go. The Sin is after knight takes d4 in the Scotch, which I think was... Oh, no, they've already covered over the game. After knight takes d4 in the Scotch, the queen can take back on d4, and the queen is well placed. Black has no way to kick it away. We saw a game like that in the post-mortem today, where somebody played one of those, like, e takes d4... traded knights, let white put the queen on d4. White played bishop e3, castles queenside, and just had a massive attack. So yeah, it's punishable. There's no way I can do it fast enough, Penguin. Yeah. The names are synced with the players near their names, but their boards are all over the place. Oh, we got an Evans Gambit. Nobody's calling Sin. They're just playing it. They're just playing it. And over here, Seth and Falk playing it safe with a C takes D5 exchange. Queen's Gambit symmetrical here. Yeah, there will be no mistakes in this game that are punishable in the first couple moves. No, this is not a normal rule of chess. We're playing a game called Sin, not chess, to Ducatol. It's related to chess. Yeah, the goal is to have them play openings metabolic error. So the wrinkle I'm going to throw at them if they start playing a bunch of exchange Slavs with each other and like 10 simple moves is I'm going to force them to play openings that they're not familiar with. You'll see. It has to be in the opening, but exactly, Penguin. I would just have to have 16 preset scenes. Yay! I'm going to spend my time doing that instead of teaching chess. Knight f6. What's his plan on d takes e5, folks? What do you think? D takes e5? Where's he going? Where are you going, Mr. Knight? You guys want to start suggesting openings for him. D5. No call of sin, just pushes the pawn. I think d takes e5 was just a refutation of black's opening, right? Like, if you go knight e4, queen d5, wins a piece. And otherwise, you start wandering with your knight, and white just captured a pawn in the center while kicking your knight. Tells you that you needed to play like d6 or something, right? All right, Drittman's about to call like a sin on Clark for not beating him last move.
Wow. Calling sin.
Okay.
You are again.
Should I explain, or do you just want to say?
I can just say, the only sin Clark committed was not calling sin on you for your last move.
Yeah, I thought knight f6 might be.
I thought it was bad.
Yeah, but as
I
it is,
normally decline the Evans Gambit, but I tried to accept it.
Wait,
yeah.
So you're calling sin on yourself?
No, he tried to call sin on you, but there's nothing wrong with d5.
Oh wait, hold up.
So
Knight a5, and he's just down a pawn, and he took away the diagonal for his good bishop.
Oh, knight a5, he can either play bishop d3 or he can play knight takes e5. It's just a normal position for a gambit.
Okay.
I would play bishop d3 because the knight on a5 is weird, and just keep playing.
You also just put your knight out on. You also just put your knight out on the rim, and I've got complete dominance in the middle.
It's got no plan for coming back. I wouldn't say complete dominance. Dritt will play d6 here perhaps and defend his e5 pawn. You've got as much dominance as anybody has when they play against your King's Indian defense. Okay. Right? Like Seth had this level of dominance in the first game against you.
But
in the opening. But black's up a pawn.
Yeah, I guess this is what I'm saying is that he's now if this was even material, white is still like better out of the opening, but like I'm just up a pawn now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, white's got compensation.
Okay. I thought he gave away the compensation, but if I'm wrong, that's fair.
No, I mean he missed his chance to beat you with d takes e5, but all right. So that's a point there. Let's see how the others are going. They're at move 11, so we'll wait for them to finish.
So we actually kind of just like we Drittman got a point and then lost it back.
Yep.
I guess is how that worked.
Yeah, it looks like your score's exactly where it was.
In our match, it just sort of reset.
Okay. Seth and Falk have speeded up just a tiny bit as necessary. They will make their 12th move successfully.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't take. Taking is so much better than pushing.
I mean, I was looking at take. I was looking at knight takes e4 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Queen b6 castles.
Yeah, the thing is, white has queen d5, and then you can resign.
Oh, queen d5, I missed that.
Yeah.
Okay, I was so focused on queen b3 because that's like...
the typical move in the Evans.
Yeah.
I also don't see bishop e7 too much in the Evans, so that was actually a new move for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if that's a line, but
yeah,
it
is.
Bishop e7, d4, that's a typical line. And in this position here, black should probably play either d6 or knight a5 are like the two moves that I think make the most sense here.
Yeah. Those would make sense.
Okay, a3 has been played. It's a really, really exciting symmetrical Queen's Gambit over here. Nice. Really amazing. Oh, bishop b7. Brilliant.
What move count are they on?
They just hit move 12.
Oh, they did? Okay, well that's...
All right.
Anyone miss a sin?
No sins? Yeah,
they successfully played 12 moves without sins, but I'm not going to give any points to an exchange Slav. All right. So the score actually after this round remains the same. They played 2 games while you guys played your 1 game. But Drittman won a point and then lost a point. And I'm putting no score for you guys. So we'll shuffle it back around. Seth and Nordovik are next. And Dritt, you're back to Falk.
So Falk, I'll challenge you and I'll take white this time, I guess?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Oh yeah, what were we last time?
I think I get to be white this time. Because you played some d4 on me.
Oh, yep. That king's in, yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. I think we're matched.
Okay. Let me leave audio.
All right. And the next round of games are off. Okay, exchange Caro here from Drit. Perfectly reasonable. And a c3 Sicilian from Nordovic. Clark challenges the pawn. So I'm just going to play e5, knight d5, I would think. But in the opening, you never know with Nordovic. Bishop f4, good move from Drit. It's a valuable diagonal. I used to always play queen c7 in this position before knight f6 just to immediately fight for that diagonal. Thierry is giving very, very excellent answers to Stukatul, so I've got nothing to add to it. Thank you, Thierry, for sharing such good advice in such a easy to understand manner. Ooh, draw offered by Driven. Driven's calling something already?
I called Sin.
Okay. On his previous move, right? Because he hadn't yet played e6.
No, on e6. On
e6.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, for me, the draw offer showed up and then the move e6, so it was weird on my side. Okay. Calling Sin on e6. What should he do? Or, well, okay.
He should play bishop g5.
Yeah, he should bring his bishop out. Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, this is the whole point of the Caro, and why it's sometimes better than a French, is you can have a good light square bishop.
Very good.
I mean, it's still fine if I don't play it, right?
The position's not terrible, but it's a pretty significant mistake to just block the bishop in for no reason. He can definitely make you suffer for that. He can definitely make you suffer. You don't have bishop a6 as a plan. You don't really have any plan for black after e6. I've seen people lose like entire games without really making any clear mistakes after this.
It's funny because Falk, me and you played an exchange Caro over the weekend, and you played bishop g5.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's okay to play e6.
That's fine. You should.
It's okay. I got into an argument with David last game when I called out Sin on Drew.
Yeah.
Like, if I go bishop d6 and I exchange dark square bishop, I can like castle short, and then the e5 comes as a possibility. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, you're not gonna get e5.
Doesn't sound like lost to me.
You are welcome to say that not only is this game a stupid idea, but that the judging was garbage. You're welcome to. But I don't think Dritman or I would let you play e5 at this point. If we got to play the moves for white. Be that as it may, let's decide if you guys should play another game. Yeah, play another game.
Sure. Should I try to play a different opening against d4?
Sure.
Okay, we'll see how this goes. Oh, wait,
Alright, I'm shooting my shot here with a Sin.
Oh,
Okay.
really? Which move?
The last one.
The last one.
The last
Bishop
one.
Bishop
Okay.
D2.
Bishop D2.
Would you confirm that?
Nope. We're gonna take a point from Seth there.
Dang. All right.
Yeah,
I
Bishop.
wasn't sure, but like Queen B3 or Queen B6 isn't a problem.
Oh, maybe it is. Hang on. Oh, let me think for a moment.
He's appealing his his point with a move.
That move looks a little bit awkward. But my instinct tells me I can just play knight c3 here for white, leaving both pawns hanging and somehow escape. But I don't know.
You can just drop the D pawn?
Both of them, yeah.
But then if I take the D pawn,
I'll put it this way. So basically, I'm going very like instinct based here, right, guys? My instinct is that this move here wasn't that bad. Like there wasn't an obviously better square for the piece. He's playing knight c3 next move. You know, it's obviously not like the main move here. I bet the main move is knight c3, developing the knight and challenging d5. And then if black plays bishop b4, then you can play bishop d2. I imagine you played this because you wanted to play knight c3 and you were worried about bishop b4. So it's definitely not the most precise move, but can you play knight c3 here? I think so. Okay, I'm not worried about queen b2, so let's look at knight d4, right? That's more likely to be a problem. Okay, knight takes d5, hitting the queen.
knight takes D5.
Maybe pawn takes, knight takes, queen
I'm
takes.
not seeing any of this.
Okay,
Hold on a sec.
sorry.
Yeah, you should look at that. I'll look.
Yeah, I just switch to Twitch.
I'll look at Twitch.
Yeah, you probably have to like check on the stream for a second. But basically, I'm trading all the knights off, and then playing bishop c3 at the end to defend e5. And I think it's okay for white because this d5 pawn is like weak enough, and white's bishops are developing faster.
Oh yeah, those are two isolated pawns in a row, like on that d file. So it's not like a real pawn advantage anymore either.
Yeah. Oh, the chat's trying. The chat's trying to.
The variation, but...
Chat's trying to sway our our system by bringing better judges than me, but I'm not gonna be swayed. I got to go with my instinct. My instinct is after knight c3, white should be okay. So
after, can I just see it? What you said?
Yeah, I played knight c3. I took on d4 for black, which I thought was more likely to be a problem for white than queen b2.
Agreed.
Then I took on d5 for white, and I took back on d5 with the pawn for black. Of course, there's also a line with knight f3 check.
d5. Gotcha.
So, I mean, I could have looked at knight f3 check too, but I don't want this to devolve into me calculating a lot of lines. Then I trade knights on d4 and play bishop c3 for white. And if black trades on d1, white's obviously good. White actually has the advantage. But probably queen e4 is a little bit more complicated, and then I don't want to get into long lines, but I think white's fine after queen e2 or maybe even bishop e2 if they get frisky.
Wait, and also, is there anything wrong with bishop to c3 as well? Like, would that also be a fighting? That would
be a mistake. So if Seth played like queen b6, putting pressure on you, and to see if like you're up for knight c3 or bishop c3, and then you play bishop c3, that would be a sin.
Both pawns, yeah.
Right, that's okay. Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking.
If you had waited, Seth, you could have called a sin.
It's like I was going to sin next move.
Oh man, I could have provoked the sin.
It's like, don't tell me that. Don't tell me you were about to sin on.
Oh, you know what? You know that's so. Because I saw bishop c3 and I was like, well, if that, I'm like, well, if he has to play bishop c3, does it still count as a sin? I'm like, yeah, that's a sin. Move the bishop twice and then just.
Yeah. Also, the bishop's like blocking the only square the knight should go to, and now your knight's just living on d5, and he can't play knight c3 to challenge it.
So that was why I called Sin, because I was like, his move to save his pawn is that.
Yeah. Yep.
But knight c3 actually.
But this just goes to show that like I just.
But it's still useful to know where the balance lies in these kinds of positions, right? Bishop d2 is not that bad a move. If we now play with knight c3, it should be okay.
That's actually really fascinating for like how it looks, like as knight c3 being like take the pawns.
Right, I'm like, yeah, pawn. Like, what else could I want out of an opening? But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tricky.
All right. We've got Falk calling Sin on the other board here.
Yeah, I thought I was just winning a pawn at the end.
So I better go look at it.
So yeah, I gambited that.
Yeah, you're winning a pawn. He saw it coming. He doesn't care. White's position is still good.
Bishop d2, bishop d3, knight f6. That's worth a pawn. That's doubled anyways.
Yep. So yeah, this position, White's got these bad doubled c pawns, which are compensated for by Black's bad dark squares. Whether or not you win one of them, the evaluation stays basically the same. White has the advantage despite either the doubled pawns or even one, or only having one c pawn. Doesn't matter. It's not even worth your time to take the pawn. But I think this opening is good for White either way. And certainly what Drit has done is reasonable, right? I mean, he had a pawn on f3, and he wanted to play knight f3. I mean, it's probably the best move he could play here, f4, I would guess. So, all right. We're going to shuffle again. So, by the way, right now we've got a total of +3 and -3. So we've had, I believe, Seth, you can correct my math if I'm getting this wrong, but I think that means we've had the same number of false calls of Sin as correct calls of Sin. Even though somebody with a score of 2, it could mean that they called it correctly 3 times and wrong once. I think either way, if the total score of all 4 players is 0... Oh, no, except I gave 2 players a point once when no Sin was called. So you guys have called Sin wrong more times than correct.
But you gave points when no Sin was called?
Yeah. There was a game where 2 players played 12 good moves without a Sin. I gave them each a point.
Oh, come on. Oh, wait, we're adding new rules halfway through?
You should try playing 12
That's gonna be, I think I can appeal
sometime.
Take the point off. I'm winning either way.
Yeah.
All right.
But that only puts me 1 point behind Seth. So you know, like I can get back in this next round.
You can.
Calling Sin.
The sooner you stop talking, the sooner you can get back in it by playing your next game.
Who do we challenge?
Yeah.
All right.
I think I've got Folk next.
Sure.
Yeah, I think so too.
Go for it. Keep rotating.
Challenge me.
And I'm gonna be White against Folk, I believe.
I will say, I think calling Sin on my opponents in the games more than I should be is a problem as well.
It tells us something for sure, like how much we're calling Sin right or wrong. That can hurt us in our games if we overpress. Okay, so I got a Caro-Kann here and a Caro-Kann here. There we go. Switch this board. Perfect. All right. So for everybody listening, I'll probably repeat this point later for the players, but the thing that just came up, like if you're calling Sin on your opponents too much, then you're likely to try to punish when you can't, which means you're going to play overly aggressive moves and you're actually going to hurt yourself by doing that. So it's a very important thing to see and notice. It's absolutely a reasonable result of this game for them to see and notice that. All right, so we've got standard opening theory here between Clark and Falk. And knight c3 against Seth, knight c6, knight f3, and now he gets out of the Sveshnikov repertoire with g6. So now he's in accelerated dragon territory. Yes, clearly it's not always the case that you can win in the opening. Good point, Pancake. Yeah. Pancake, were you around for the experiment where I tried winning the game in 20 moves every single game on purpose? Where I like pushed like that from like move 1 every time? I was playing against, you know, players between like 1,000 and 2,000. I wasn't playing against like IMs and GMs where it's definitely not possible. But against players under 2,000, you know, there were like sessions of like 30 games where I was getting like between 70 and 80, sometimes even 85% of the games winning within 20 moves. So it's possible to win a lot of games that fast, but definitely not 100% of them. That is definitely too high. C4 is a good move by Clark here. You have to fight for the light squares after the light square bishop trade. So it's an extra pawn move, but obviously you can see white's already ahead in development because the bishop trade on d3 gave white a tempo, and black played c6 and then c5. So white definitely has the time to play c4. It's a very good move by Clark. I would say Falk's in a little bit of danger here. Honestly, like c5 might be a mistake from Falk. I don't know for sure. If Clark had called sin, I would have had to really think about it. Yeah, that's right, CloudSat. That's like a d4 player thing, but obviously there are d4 players who also develop their kingside. Yeah, that could definitely go in there, Thierry. Legyon thinks black is better. That's very implausible here, Legyon. Very implausible. Dripman in a deep think in a pretty normal position here. Looks like we're going to get like a dragon. A normal dragon. Well, he's playing what you wanted, Legyon. I mean, basically, the C and D files are open, so whoever can get their rooks onto the C and D files first is going to be in good shape. But we've got a call in the other game. We're going to have to go take a point away from Dripman. Hang on, guys.
No!
What did I do?
He needs to play knight f6 first, because now it can play queen d2 without worrying about knight g4.
Well, queen d2, knight f6, what would you do there?
Queen d2, knight f6, bishop h6.
Bishop h6? Takes?
Queen take. Or no, so I take the knight on c6 first, and then I go bishop h6.
So you'd play queen d2, knight f6, trade on c6 in order to play bishop h6?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, black's fine with that.
This is not the position.
You're just burning energy to trade pieces. There's nothing wrong with black's position.
I mean, okay. I guess I just thought I can force him to get rid of the dragon bishop very quickly.
You can.
Okay. I thought that's bad
Yeah,
for black.
not a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My other thought was just queen d2, f3, queenside castle, etc. But
yeah, there's nothing in particular you can prove here as white. Bishop takes, queen takes. I'll even invite the queen in there. I don't know if you're following this whole position, but
oh yeah, I gotta go.
It's a little delayed, but I
yeah. But after all the trades, maybe I'll play rook b8, developing a rook while trying to win a tempo. If you castle queenside, I think queen b6 might be bad for you. If you play b3, then like queen a5.
So it looks like Fox calling Sin.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean this approach you're playing is consistent with like calling Sin, right? Like you're trying to achieve something, but I think this is an example of like where in a game if you tried to prove something on black here it would bounce back against you.
Yeah, I guess in a normal
probably should
game,
have just
I would
waited
just
for
play normal moves. I don't know. I just know that like that move order wasn't right. So
there was something slightly fishy looking about the move order, yeah. But I think it was within.
I was thinking like, wait, what? Why am I playing a dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to play the close Sicilian, and then I was like, okay.
Okay. Falk, did you think it was already moved 12, or did you think that white did something wrong?
I mean, I don't think he did anything terribly wrong, but I think I was just a bit better here maybe after queen b6, and so. Maybe I'm wrong, but
okay.
I felt like he could have made
a better move. Wait, so you're not calling a Sin then?
I mean, of course I'm calling a Sin.
He's calling Sin.
Like, bet is a bit better.
Thinking that he's a bit better.
I don't know.
But
after queen b6, I thought it's like.
Yeah, we have somebody in chat who was saying the same thing, Falk. They were preferring your position already. Unfortunately, it wasn't me. I like white's positions.
Interesting.
I mean, there was an interesting move for Clark last move as well, queen g4. You know, someone could maybe argue that queen g4 was really strong last move over queen a4. But queen a4 looks good to me too, because it's challenging this knight on d7. You can't defend it with knight f6. And I really like that white's rooks can probably get to the c or d file or both first.
But after queen b6,
this is
if he plays rook d1, I go like
after queen b6. This is a very familiar move against me. That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I can even hang f2 here and play rook d1 probably.
And queen c6.
This is deja vu, David.
You're gonna play rook d1, queen c6 here.
Yeah.
You're not gonna take the f pawn.
I mean, if I do, then I'm probably going to lose my knight, right?
You'll be under some pressure, yeah. Yeah, queen trade on c6. White just develops.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, you're not in trouble. Like, you're not in big trouble. You can play this game, but white's probably a little bit better because their rooks come out more easily. I mean, I could be wrong about it, but certainly white's done nothing wrong. Like, every move he's played has been correct. I can say that much. Like, queen a4 should maybe, like, I don't know if queen a4 or queen g4 is better, but they're, like, both main candidate moves. Nothing white's done has been wrong this game. He played knight f3, bishop d3 in the advance. When you play c5, he doesn't let you take over the initiative. He fights back on the light squares. Absolutely correct. Since he's ahead in development, we know that he can afford to do that. You traded things. He took here. That's fine. I mean, there's other good moves as well, but it's, I mean, recapturing is pretty normal, and then put his queen on a fine square. Pristine. All right. So far in general, you guys are calling Sin wrong more often than right. Believe?
I'm 1-1.
I'll increase my threshold for Sin.
Yeah.
I've only called Sin once, and I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So back to like me and Drew now.
That sounds accurate.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I'm black this time.
Okay, I'll challenge you.
Yeah. Right. Oh, I have to play black with Falk. Yep. All right.
I don't want to know what the engine says, Thierry. Don't pollute my bad judging with something resembling objectivity. I'm the arbiter of sin in the opening. Great game, huh, Stamen? Everybody gets to have a negative score at the end. Yeah, not a great performance by the player so far on knowing when there is or isn't a sin. I mean, they're playing pretty decently well, right? It's nothing about the play, but as far as recognizing when the opponent's making a sin, they seem to be very, very negative towards their opponent's moves. Wow. Trittman's like, I haven't seen that before. Last time their game went this far, by the way, folks. Knight takes d4 and Drittman correctly called sin. Now he's thinking about d5 for a bit. Clark's just looking for some kind of defense to the Scotch game. He's never seen this thing before where white plays d4. You know, he just, what am I supposed to do about this? Well, I do like honesty, host pun. D5's well-intentioned. It's developing the pieces. It's countering the center. What's wrong with D5? Looks okay to me. I've never seen it played. From that perspective, you're like, it's got to be a sin. But what's wrong with it? He's letting his bishop out. Countering. Pawn takes, queen takes. Looks fine for him. Knight takes, pawn takes. Looks fine as well. Maybe knight takes, pawn takes, ed5, and you can't take back with the c pawn because of bishop b5 check, bishop d7, queen takes d5. So knight takes, pawn takes, you'd have to take with the queen. And then white can just play a move like knight c3 and leave you with the double isolated pawns and not trade the queen on d5. It's like an edge for white. If pawn takes, queen takes, you can't bring out the knight because the knight on d4 is hanging there. So that's the problem with that, Far Eastern. There's this counterattack on d4 immediately. What's going on the other board? Tarrasch defense. Yeah, we saw Seth play this against Falk in the tournament, right? All right, there comes Dritt's call.
Wow, you just like...
I'm pretty sure this at least loses a pawn.
Wow, loses a pawn.
Really? You just don't like any of my Scotch defenses.
Well, I know none of these are like the main moves.
I'm shocked. So, he knows it's called the Scotch defense, Dritt. In the commentary, I was guessing it was his first time seeing it today.
But he plays E45. Don't you, Drew? You must.
Yeah, I knew I was supposed to take. I don't know. I just don't theory a lot. I don't know.
It's all good.
Oh, okay. Well, Dritt, I'm supposed to just evaluate this. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with D5. I mean, it looks.
Like, come on.
It looks like a bad move.
Not a sin.
It looks like a bad move. But, I mean, it looks like a good move. Maybe this is what everyone will play against the Scotch next week.
Bishop B5.
Bishop B5, huh? Bishop B5. That's a great move, Drittman. Whew. Yeah. No, if he takes on E4, he's hosed. If he plays Bishop D7, he's hosed.
Yeah, exactly.
Good move.
What if I just play queen D6?
No, don't move your queen, man.
Wait, what's wrong with queen D6?
I don't know. Pawn takes pawn, hitting the knight again. Queen takes, knight C3.
I can still take the pawn attacking the bishop.
Yeah, knight C3. His bishop's defended like quite well.
Wait, is bishop on C6 or on B6 is defended?
On B5?
By both
twice.
Knights.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This is headed bad.
So wait, so are you gonna switch it and say that is a sin?
Yeah, he was right. That was a great move.
Oh.
Actually, like, brutally, there's also knight takes c6 right here for Dritman. Oh, my lord. If queen b5, queen d8,
like
there's a punishment.
Yeah.
And if you trade queens, then obviously you can't deal with this diagonal anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Queen
d6
is worse than
this
d5.
catch that often, honestly, believe it or not.
Bishop b5, nice move.
Thanks.
All right, I don't know if I'm supposed to, like, listen to your explanations, but that was a good explanation, Drit.
Yeah, as well. I mean, I know what it sent me wrong in the game against Seth, but like knowing when a move is not theory anymore is like a stop and think.
It's very helpful. Man, you spotted it, and we didn't spot it. We were looking at this the whole time. Like, obviously, this move is probably wrong, but Dritman has to sort of like figure out like something about it before calling it. Because without bishop b5, without something concrete, like the move is developing and countering in the center, and it has to be something concrete.
It felt right.
I didn't find it.
Like,
I didn't find it.
Yeah.
I didn't find it.
I'm not a theory player, clearly.
Man, I should probably give Drit a bonus point for finding a move I didn't find.
Oh man.
But then we're gonna get some complaints about the scoring system changing every game.
I already put in my one complaint.
All right, they're at move 11, so we'll let them.
Did they miss a sin yet?
They're at move 12. No,
I mean,
no complaints yet.
Yeah.
So that's got 2 minutes left to not hang the c6 pawn.
Might need a third minute. Kidding. Yeah. No, this looks fine.
I was gonna
Can
say
you go through the moves in this game. I'm kind of curious.
I was gonna say like maybe c5 could like hang a pawn because of g4 and d5, but even then like you get back the pawn on d4 afterwards. It's pretty hard to really mess this up.
Yeah. Can you play through the previous moves? I'm curious just to see what they did.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
So Tarrasch defense, and then trading on d4, knight c6, trading on d5, and you get the symmetrical position. This comes out of the Nimzo. Well, if they play bishop b4, it comes out of the Panov-Botvinnik attack. It comes out of the exchange French with c4.
Hard to go wrong in this structure. Yeah, cloud set. Hard to go wrong in the opening, at least.
I like how chat the whole time is just like, I don't know. It's bad. It must be bad.
Yeah.
Like D5, it must be bad. And everybody's like, I don't know. Wait, Giant Solemn found bishop b5. Okay. Eventually. Oh wait, but that might have been after Drit came up with it. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Good job, guys. I assessed you each a point for a flawless opening.
Me and Paul?
Wait, I thought that we agreed that those weren't points because you took away those points from me. And
I didn't take those points away from you. Clark complained about them, but I didn't take them away.
Oh. Okay.
All right.
Oh, then I need my point for the last round.
You said that you could give away that point and still be in the lead.
No, I meant if you took away the points from me and Seth.
Yeah.
If you just take away my point.
Right.
That's different.
Yeah.
And you guys are tied now.
Yeah. So, how are you guys doing on time? Should we wrap this up? It's midnight for Seth and Nordvik.
It's up to them.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I probably should go, but I can go a little longer.
Okay. All right, we'll go another round then. If
we're just doing one though, then we should definitely do Seth and Drit so they can tie break.
Sounds good.
Like make it actually like a.
Seth, you take the white. You take white because if I take white, it's just going to be 14.
Yeah, well, I was going to not do this. I was gonna not smash you. I was gonna go for the open, but Sicilian. But anyway, but yeah, I'll take.
I'll challenge you and I'll give you the white piece.
All right, for the tie break, guys. How about you play 2 games so that you each get a chance to be white, and Seth has to play E4 on his white game, and Drit has to play D4 on his white game.
All right, I love this. Okay. Well, actually, I don't love this because I'm probably gonna lose, but it's still fun.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
I'll challenge you.
And
my D4 defense for black is.
Vulcan and I can fight for third place or a tie. See if you can tie it up on third place.
Yeah, you guys can play a 2-game match as well.
Yeah, just to play it. Yeah.
I just came back. Do we just play a game now, or?
Yeah, you can play with Nordvik now.
Okay.
I was just checking that nobody had run out of time yet. I wonder if Seth's students watch Seth on our stream. My students definitely found my YouTube channel when I was teaching junior high school. But I was surprised that it took them like a couple months instead of like a day. But I think junior high students are generally capable of like Googling their teachers' names. All right, anyway, I'll ask him about that at some point. If his students are like watching, then the next day they're like, I know why you're tired, Mr. Lichtenstein. I saw you playing chess at midnight. You look at this position, like you think that Dritman would be white, right? Because it's the Scotch opening. They like really like switched souls for the final tiebreak here. Right now, Pancake, I'm like mostly watching my kids, and then when their schools are both open at the same time, then I'm teaching chess, or like late at night I'm teaching chess. So I'm just doing some chess because it's super flexible, you know. Like some people may or may not have noticed, but they had like staggered vacations in April plus like a week of at home quarantine before coming back to school. So it was like 3 weeks in April where I had to like watch the kids. I could only stream like a couple hours late at night at the cost of my own health. So I can't do a job until the pandemic is like really controlled. Oh, that would be amazing, Scott. Yeah, if he comes into class and the students like correct him. They could even just pretend like they could hear the commentary that I do and then just like pretend they knew and saw it all themselves. Wow, Clark lashing out with e5, trying to provoke Seth. Like, can Seth trade queens and win this pawn? Probably. Probably. Oh, sorry, not Seth. Falk. I see this. They played this opening before Seth. I'm confused by the openings. Anyway, I think Falk could call it here. That he can just take this pawn from Clark. Will we ever run Dojo Book Club again? Probably, Thad. That'd be more a Kostya question than a me question. I'm basically just betting on the answer to your question here. But I would bet that they will. Bishop G5? Really, Seth? I think this move actually doesn't work. Bishop G5, H6. The scoring system doesn't involve me just assessing minus points on them randomly while they're playing when they don't call it. Giant Solomon, in general, white doesn't want to trade on c6 because the knight on d4 is a bit better than the knight on c6 at the moment, and trading on c6 helps black to develop the bishop or strengthen their center. Like it sort of like gives up some of white's juice. So normally white doesn't like especially want to trade on c6. Excuse me. It does happen sometimes. It does give black a doubled pawn. It does come up, but it's not like a big thing that white would be all excited about. What's your rating right now? 000 Penguin. Now that the pawn is defended, the moment that the pawn is defended, white now trades. That's right. Knight takes c6 is the correct move instead of bishop g5. Oh, so actually the answer to Giant Slalom's question is, in this particular position, yes, white should take on c6. That's 100% correct. Sorry. The theory in this position is since e4 is attacked, you have to defend this pawn. But if you play bishop d3, you lose the knight. So the theory in this position is to trade, take back, and then develop the bishop. That's the main theory, Giant Slalom. Thanks for poking me, Legyon. I got my head in too many directions. h6 was correct. So Drittman's playing the sort of like mild refutation of bishop g5, but not calling sin this time. I don't know what you mean, Thierry. Can you ask that same question with some different words? So now black can try g5, bishop g3, knight takes e4.
Okay.
Just sin. Just loses a pawn.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I've won many games like this as black.
I was trying to think if I could call sin on bishop g5 because
right.
h6 takes.
Yeah.
Takes c6, queen takes c6, and like black is probably even slightly better. But
just lose a pawn after g5.
Yeah, you can even throw in this check here on c3. Pawn takes,
I looked at that,
queen
and then
takes.
Pawn takes, queen takes, knight, queen d3, and white's not down material. Oh, I missed that.
Yeah,
okay.
Throwing in the check here. If king takes, b takes c6 looks particularly rough.
Yeah.
With bishop a6 coming.
Okay.
I
missed queen c3.
Yeah, in my experience, like bishop g5 is already like not a good move. I feel like I've had people like not completely lose the game against me after h6, but I'm not sure how they avoided losing. They did something to not get totally smashed. Maybe throwing in knight takes c6 first, so you have to recapture it, and then trade on f6, and then grovel with some queen d3 type of move. But like black
if
is...
I called sin on bishop g5, would you have given it to me?
probably. I mean, it's really borderline. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but what's the move? Okay, wait. So wait, it loses
the move
a
is
pawn.
knight takes c6.
Oh.
Yeah,
You
here
don't play
That knight in the center is so loose.
here
Yeah,
people
the knight is
take
terrible,
in
but-
order to play bishop d3.
Yeah.
Well, in order to play bishop d3, right? Yeah, so you can defend the pawn.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. And I was just had it in my head that I didn't want to trade that knight for some reason, but anyway.
I mean, it looks nice there. I don't blame. I mean, like,
No,
the first time I played this as
but-
white, I definitely blundered the first few times.
But wait, how do you win the pawn?
Oh, in the final position of your game, he's going to play g5, bishop g3, knight e4.
That's That's okay
Yeah.
though. G5.
Yeah, I
No,
feel
because
like
you can't. If you play queen e2, I just castle and you can't take the knight because of rook e8.
right.
What do you mean?
I've had games like this where, like, if you play d5, white has f3, right? Or sorry, the knight on d4 is hanging also, right? So you could just play knight takes knight here as well. Queen e4, queen e7.
Well, so here I was thinking of taking the knight on c3 for. Okay.
Right.
I mean, everything's winning.
It looks like there's a few different ways for black to stay up a pawn, basically, here. It's complicated. I've had people, like, not, like, completely lose the game, but, like, they don't have compensation for the pawn either, right? It's, like, correct for black to take the pawn.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I thought maybe there would be compensation after that series and playing G5 and come.
Okay. So should I match Seth?
So I'm giving you a point, Drit. You're at 3. Nordovik and Falk, you each get a point as well, right? You just made it through.
No, Falk just called a sin, I think, right?
He called sin on the last move?
No, that was
move
11
12.
moves. That was 11 moves.
Wait,
Oh,
really?
it was 12. I
No, it
didn't
was
scroll
12,
all the way
yeah.
down. Oh, so you didn't
Okay.
call a sin. Oh,
No, no,
okay.
it was just game over.
I'll
Oh, I
send the
see.
rematch, Seth.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Did you agree that there were no sins, David?
I thought there was a moment where your e5 pawn was hanging, and he didn't take it. So
I thought e5 was a sin as well.
Yeah.
And I was surprised he just didn't.
yeah,
take
you
that.
played
I was
e5.
like, I
it
don't
looked
know
like he
why.
could just
I
take
don't
it.
know why I did it. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah.
I was like looking at other stuff, and then I just didn't like,
Yeah.
and then I just switched to doing that move.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things, and it's like, oh wait, no, that was not.
And then you defended the pawn, and then he took. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
All right, one more. Into
Yep.
the breach.
Okay, so Dritman and Seth are over here now. Dritman's playing 1d4. Outside of usual, Clark and Falk into another Caro. Okay, so Mr. 000 Penguin asking, I'm getting back to your question now that my students are back in their games. The answer is get to 1200 first and then worry about the strategy. That's my first answer to you. Once you do, I highly recommend the book Winning Chess Strategies by Sirawan and Silman. Okay? So go out there, get yourself 50 more rating points with your tactics that you've been working on. And then crack that book. And Clark's got his knight on c3. I would have said sin right here. But you see, Falk is afraid to play e6 with his bishop on c8 now, right? He knows that we're going to give him a sin for that one. So look, he's already playing better out of fear of sinning. Knight f3, c5, trade once, knight c3. This looks like a normal Tarrasch so far. Knight f6 is super inaccurate. You play knight c6 first so as not to get bishop g5'd. Wow, h3, g4. But they're keeping it cool so far. Now, the idea from white here is to play like knight e5 and bishop b5, right? Maybe bishop b5 first. Oh! Clark is trying to punish him, but hasn't called sin on him. He's just trying to like beat him without calling sin. Knight e5, not the right way. Now a6 is playable. Oh yeah, that Gelfand book's way too hard. And he finds it. He has been pardoned. He has been pardoned for his sins. The sentence has been commuted to just play a game of chess.
I want to call a sin.
Okay.
Yep.
On a6?
Yep.
Okay.
I just think that it's I mean, there's so much of an attack going on this side of the board, and like I don't know.
All right.
I feel like he could block with the knight on a bishop check.
Well, no, he couldn't. He couldn't.
Wait.
Last move, you could have played bishop b5 check.
Was in there, never mind.
And if knight d7, knight e5, you win the piece.
Oh, I called it on the wrong. I called it on the wrong move.
But actually, you made a mistake with knight e5, and a6 was a correct defense for him.
Oh shoot! Wait, so knight e5 was a bad. I should have played bishop b5.
Bishop b5, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a6 was a good defense.
So if bishop b5, knight d6, knight d7, then I have knight to e5. Is that like how that works? Oh,
yeah.
It's okay. Interesting.
If you play bishop b5, I'm forced to go king e7, I think.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you see this? Like my main idea was to knock out that knight and just keep that king in the center. And if he wanted to castle, then I had that whole pawn storm coming. That was kind of my main plan for like what I was trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, when you give up the bishop for the knight on b8, which is something that Drit also tried against Falk in an earlier game, it's because you're trying to accomplish something immediately, right? Yeah. When you go for bishop b8. Oh, wow. Is the thing finally hitting me? I'm feeling very weird. When you go for bishop takes b8, it's to accomplish something. There's no other reason you would like trade a bishop for a knight and like burn that kind of like development tempo of the developed piece for the undeveloped piece, right?
So that was actually a sin right there.
So when you played bishop takes b8, you were saying that you thought that he had sinned and you were trying to punish him. Pretty much. That's what your move is saying. Your move was kind of calling sin, but you didn't.
I guess. And I guess you're right. I should have thought about, but I don't know what move it was. It was like the general situation. It was like the idea that I didn't want him to have to castle, and
right.
Like, I can't like pinpoint a move in there. It just felt right.
I think it's bishop. I think it's bishop h5, right? Because bishop h5 now they can't trade the knight when it goes to e5. So the next moves we're forcing, right? g4. I mean, he's got to retreat. Bishop b8. Now he doesn't have the pieces to block bishop b5.
Okay. So I'm going to lose the point because I called sin on the wrong move.
Yep.
That's rough.
Your point has already been taken.
That's tough. Dang.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. You called a good move of his a sin, and you failed to punish his actual sin.
Yeah.
Right? You absolved him when you didn't play bishop b5 check.
Yep. I mean, I think that my position is still, like, good, right? Like, where I'm at. Like, it's still a good position. It's just not winning like it was.
No. It's also not good.
Yeah.
And this is an important...
In the end, like,
this is an important thing to understand about this sin stuff, right? Like, if you get it wrong, it's actually going to cost and hurt you. Because you play a move like bishop takes b8. You're burning energy, right? You're burning through energy to try and land a bishop b5. If you don't land it, now you're in a position where he's got the bishop pair. He's got a solid position without weaknesses. And your position's a little bit weird, right? Because you've played g4, like, to what purpose?
I guess my main idea still was I can pawn storm and he can't castle, and I can, really get initiative on that side of the board with the rest of what I got going. That's what I would argue.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to be okay. He can castle into your pawn storm, or he can not castle yet and keep the option open. His best play is going to be on the c file, so he'll probably want to play rook c8 pretty quickly. And then start looking at like bishop b4 or queen b6 or queen a5. He wants to start hitting you on the dark squares. You do have a pawn structure on the dark squares, but you don't have the dark squared bishop, and you don't have the pawn on c3. You've got the knight. So if he goes for like rook c8 and like queen b6, like he can find some spots to hit. And if you just spend more moves going h4 and f4 when he hasn't even castled yet, you're not going to be there with your development. Yeah, and if you don't play a f4 and h4, if you develop like bishop d3, trade the bishop, rook b1 to defend b2, and then what do? Castle kingside yourself, or castle? If you castle queenside, he can counterattack you there, right? If you castle kingside, the pawn moves on the king side are very double-edged. So
I guess my what I would argue is that his queenside attack is slower just because his pawns are less further advanced. Like, just by the general like count of where the pawns are in the position.
But he also already has the open c file, so he doesn't necessarily need to even advance pawns. Like, there are some plausible attacks without any pawn trades. I'll just show you like a random position. Bishop d3 takes, queen takes, rook c8, castles, queen a5. Like, black doesn't need the b pawn. They just go bishop b4 and they start threatening c3 and a2 and stuff, and they've got knight e4 as a possible move. And part of the point of like the pawn pushes in a pawn storm is to trade a pawn to open a file for your rook to then be able to attack with it, right? So in a sense, he's actually ahead because his c-pawn's already been traded, right? It's as if you played f4, f5, and traded on e6 or something. Like, that's what black is coming to the party with already in their back pocket.
I see. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, for anyone suggesting that I'm on drugs, no, I got the vaccine today, and I think it just started to hit me.
Which one?
The second Moderna shot.
Second Moderna?
That'll do it.
Either that or it just got tired and I missed a meal today. But,
don't miss me.
I don't know. Yourself called anything, right?
What's that?
I didn't call anything.
Yeah, you guys just played 12 moves, right?
Yeah.
No errors.
It was stressful. Man, I hate that opening. I don't know why I do it to myself.
So bishop g5, putting some pressure. We have a Tarrasch expert in chat who said that it's more precise to play knight c6 before knight f6, so you don't have to face the immediate pin. Like, you get a little more counter pressure on d4 before you have to defend d5.
I know that in the database, that I think Knight f6 might even be played more, but they're both played a lot.
The database may be showing you Knight f6 is being played more because it's showing all the games that have transposed to that position.
Transposed to that position, for sure.
So it may be games that started with Knight f6 and then later somebody played c5 or later.
So the problems I've run into with Knight c6 is like they take and then I've lost the d pawn just like right away playing
Knight c6 dc5 or something.
Yeah. So so I ran into tactics with that.
So you know how most openings are like a fight over like a pair of squares? Like if we go to move 3 where you've played c4 before you play c5, normally you'll see like Knight f6, Knight c3 or whatever, and the pair of squares that are being fought over is d5, e4. The Tarrasch is a form of opening where instead of fighting for d5 and e4 that white's attacking, you counterattack the other pair of squares with c5, and you say like, yeah, maybe I'll lose d5, or I'm not putting everything on controlling the square that you're pressuring. I'm countering.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of lashing out.
Yeah. So bishop g5, bishop e6. That looks like the right move there. Looks a little risky. Yeah. e3. Looking at bishop b5. cd4. Yikes. Bringing the knight to d4? Did you consider it, Drit?
I considered calling sin. I just don't... I mean, I'm like, okay, he's choosing to play an IQP, but his bishop's really bad.
Right.
Like, IQP is part of the territory.
Yeah.
You're going to give me an IQP at any point.
Right. So, Drit, you don't have the same, you don't have the same signposts and guides as you have in the e4 openings that you know better, right?
Exactly.
You're like, it seems like I'm doing well, but I don't know for sure, right?
Exactly. I'd say the difference is I can give you an IQP by taking, but then you get bishop c5 for free.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting knight d5 for free.
Exactly. Like if you compare this to like,
but why does my bishop want to be on c5?
Well, it doesn't want to be on c8.
Exactly, Dre.
f8.
Yeah. The reason it wants to be on c5 is because it's better than f8.
Sure, but then I get to, I can use it to break the pin, which in this case.
But okay, even ignoring your piece, like I don't get knight d4 for free.
Yeah. Yeah, bringing the opponent's knight to d4, that's risky business. That's really risky business.
I guess it's blockading the d pawn, I guess, but
yeah, but it's also like he might be threatening bishop b5 check, right? I'm not sure exactly what you did about that. Let me see. Knight d4, you played bishop e7. Ooh, bishop b5. I guess you're gonna play knight b7.
Knight d7 and then what?
Bishop b5, knight c6. Oh yeah, you can't play knight c6. Knight, you have to play like. Yeah, you'd have to play like knight d7.
Yeah.
Knight bd7.
You could. Yeah. Yeah, knight bd7.
Okay.
I didn't think that was that big of a deal.
Here, takes.
Definitely would rather develop it to c6.
Takes. Queen here. I guess there's this.
Yeah, I actually saw this. Oh. Well, I was looking at queen h5 lines.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't see anything concrete, and I felt like it was the whole wasting energy thing we talked about.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it could be, right? Like, you're bringing his knight to a better square. So unless there's, like, a follow-up, you should have just put your bishop on d3 like you did. So it was good that you weren't just, like, burning energy there. Jeez. I feel like you almost have something here. But yeah, okay, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. Okay, so you just played bishop d3. But anyway, in theory, the danger, Seth, is that like somehow with the knight on d4, he's got options to trade the bishop and then hit your light squares. And you just have to worry about that every move. And he's got bishop b5, so...
I wasn't too worried about him taking that bishop. I don't know if I should have been or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's often no big deal, but it's just like another option. It just feels like white's got a little bit of juice here.
I feel like
Okay, so bishop d3.
I feel like every time I play this, I play the entire game just like on the brink of disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you play it?
I don't know. I'm like,
because I used to play lines like that, and then like at some point I'm just like, I'm not gonna play this anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know why I still play the Scandi, but I do.
Because especially there was a time where I was like thinking of going and switching up openings, but I just been playing so terrible that I just want to get positions I know, and even then I still just lose them anyway. So I just don't want to. I just didn't want to spend like time learning new openings. I'm like trying to improve like my middle games, play. So I'm just trying to get good positions out of the opening. And I don't get good. This opening never gives me, not never, but I got a decent one with Fog. Yeah, I don't know. But sometimes though, also being on like the edge, the brink of destruction. Sometimes it forces me to play some good moves. I don't know. Sometimes like the Queen's Gambit, I get like too comfortable or something.
No, I mean I went through this with the Scotch. Actually, there were like a lot of lines. I liked the Scotch, but there are a lot of lines as white where I was just getting crushed at, and I just avoid those, and I play things that are in theory more drawish, but like who cares at our level? Like the 4-night Scotch, if you look at it in the database, is like an 80% draw rate. But like if you know how to play it and what to look for, like you can still have a nice lively game in it.
Yeah.
And like the lines that are being played in the Masters database with
I didn't know how to play that line correctly. I didn't know how to play that line correctly for Black well into being a master. I only figured it out like as like an IM at some point in the last 10 years.
So I would find something that you just feel comfortable in. Like it sucks going into lines that you know that you're like, I'm gonna suffer the whole time. And like you don't need to know a lot of theory, just find something you're comfortable with for a bit and you'll like pick it up bit by bit.
There's nothing, yeah. I've said like maybe I would try like something completely different against D4, like the Banco or something.
So I used to never like any of the stuff against D4. I used to be horrible against it. Like I played the Benoni because I was so desperate. Like that's the real mark of desperation.
Exactly. That's what I was like, I tried Banco,
That stuff's complicated. Like I can show you some of the stuff that I'm
I just don't like
it's
pretty
simple.
I don't know, like the idea of playing the Slav doesn't appeal to me. For some reason.
King's Indian stuff I started playing today.
King's Indian really doesn't appeal to me.
You can play any moves you want, Seth.
It's so against me to just give away the center. It's just
do the Nimzo and Queen's Indian.
Yeah. It's like you take the center. No, I can't play like that.
I was having fun today, just trying it out.
It's obviously playable. Obviously. Good, but
it was kind of exciting, like thinking through the moves and what works and what doesn't. I don't know. I enjoyed it.
All right, good job, everybody. I'm gonna call it on myself here.
Yeah. Go.
Let us know if you need to take
Tylenol
Thursday
works
off
well.
or
Don't take ibuprofen.
Yeah, I'm not planning to take Thursday off. I'm hoping to only be sick while I sleep tonight, and then be like fine tomorrow. Get rid of all the bad part while I'm asleep.
What time did you get it?
10 a.m. this morning.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. This is right about when it should be kicking in.
Yeah.
Is there any
I would take
I guess we still haven't gotten any homework yet. I was just realizing
that's right. No homework yet.
To get any homework.
You guys are doing fine. I'll give you homework at some point.
All right.
Good night, David.
But good job, Drit. Congrats on being the universe's first winner of the game Sin. Very nice performance today.
Congratulations.
The master of Sin.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Yeah, night.
That's a great title.
All right, folks. So we will just raid somewhere and eat and drink and go to bed. Hope everyone had fun. Normally I stick around and answer a lot of questions afterwards, but today I'm done. So that'll be next time. Where should we go? What's looking good? Drunk Blitz Arena, no thanks. Chatting, no thanks. 4-player chess, no thanks. Nothing good enough for me. Here for the raid. I don't know if there's going to be a raid. All right. We'll try Let's Chess Live. All right, everybody. Have a great day or night wherever you are. I hope to see you again very soon. Cheers.